send her to Leadership Concord. There, as you also know, we're changing some ward locations voting locations next year. So signage for the $3,900 is suggested. I'm also suggesting to add the ward official salary increase of the $11,880. The last time the ward officials saw an increase in pay was 2009, and I thought it would be appropriate to, it's about a $30 per of those elected officials. So that would go to those ward officials for salary increase. Under the police department budget, there's PCR 124, which is the CVCSA pre-employment screening. Talking to the police department, this is technology in which we'll be replacing the polygraph, and this will send 2 people to training as well as getting all the software, and I think for $15,000 it made sense to do that now. This also adds $66,000 is suggesting to cemeteries. General overhead budget, I'm asking to eliminate the money for the arts, which is the $7,500, because I have another solution, which is the next line, and that is to add to the city manager's budget, and this money would come out of the Economic Development Reserve Fund, which has the ability to do this. $150,000. They go for grants for events and community programming. So the reason I was eliminate the arts. So the idea is that oftentimes we see great ideas that come along, and because they don't come along during the budget time, they don't necessarily get funded. So this would give the ability for, say, the Capstone of the Arts, or the Arts Fest, or Multicultural Festival, or any new idea that people had, would be able to come along and ask apply for a grant from the city, and then they could actually dole those dollars out. So that way you don't have to wait for budget time, you don't have to identify budget time, we don't have to pick winners and losers, but it gives the opportunity in the future for people who have ideas and things we haven't even thought of yet to do. So that sets up that kind of grant program. I also add in the City Council's budget $140,000 for DEI training. This would go to help fund somebody that would help us, some sort of person who would work with us, not as an employee, but as more of a consultant, to help us along with what we need to do in terms of community conversations and trainings and such. This is a line item that, it's kind of an up to this amount, because I've been working with the school district. They are interested in funding half of this as well, but I thought it'd be important to put this money in, and obviously if the school district participates, well then we don't need to spend all the money. But in the meantime, I think it's important that if we're going to do it right, we need to have some dollars included in the budget. So if you add those, that's where I get the $480,150. So you can see that the Economic Development Reserve is a reduction of $150,000. That pays for the grants. I've increased the motor vehicle registration line item by $50,000. I think that if you look at past history, that easily had revenue above $50,000. Historically, has made it. Let's skip over the balance of the first. So as I think to cover the other half of the truck driver $50,000 share there. And then the capital budget, a couple changes. One of which I'm asking you to first one, which it was fire vehicles. I think the age, the amount of miles on the vehicle, $240,000 for the vehicle replacement for fire vehicles. The CIP number 696. This is one that is currently in year, I believe, 2027, and I'm asking that we move it up to 2024. It's $95,000. So if you go back, I don't know if anybody remembers, when we did the Main Street program, one of the things we added was, or suggest we wanted to do at the time and we didn't, for money purposes, basically because we ran out of money, is to put fencing around the trees and around the flowers. And talking to some of the downtown crew and talking to merchants downtown and others, the number of dogs who go in these things, dig them up, and it is incredibly frustrating to, after you just plant the flowers, everything gets dug up and destroyed. This morning, trust me, I got a picture of a dog peeing on some of our artwork because it was in the middle of it. It goes on, and so it's just a constant daily struggle to keep these things. And if we're going to support the trees in downtown, then I think putting the fencing around makes a whole lot of sense. The other thing we did during the Main Street project is that we put in all of the underground, the sidewalk for a coach, and the power, the heating system put in to support being a coach on the bus on South Main Street. And we had just, so the coach sitting there is a replica. If you noted, what I did was I had $1,000, so this would be the CIP item, $100,000 to put structure on Main Street. I put an asterisk by it. There was an intention to put an asterisk by it. There'd also be a donation for the stagecoach, and if anything was beyond building over $100,000, then that would have to come out of donations as well. But the city contribution would be $100,000. And as I said, I think it would be smart to put we had planned for it, and I think it's time to execute it. The one that I forgot to put on the list, also for capital, is item number 644. It falls under General Services, Highway Utilities, and this would be a general capital fund transfer. Right now, there is $5,000 for the tree canopy, and I would suggest we add add another $15,000 to make that $20,000. So if you add the $15,000, it takes the 45 in red that I have. That would be reduced to $30,000, just because the other part of that, if you agree with me to add the 15, you would go up under the first block where it said 280,150 from the fund balance. I would suggest adding $15,000 there to make it 295,150, so that it all comes out even. Now, the effect of the tax rate would be no change to what the manager has suggested. It would be the 3.9% increase that the manager suggested. It would be a reduction of the CIP by $30,000, and you would see those are the highlights. So if I can answer any questions, this is what I would, and much of this is what I took from what I heard from testimony. It's what I've heard from other counselors. It's what I've heard from the community. And there's a couple in here, obviously, that I think that we've been talking about for years and finally we should do. So anybody, what are your thoughts?
Like it.
Good work.
Oh.
Okay.
So we are,
Councilor Brown?
oh, thank you. So we are actually increasing, we are using the fund balance, even though one of our city goal is to not use.
So as the goal of the city, of the policy committee, is to have a balance of 18.5%. The current balance is 19.6%. So I'm taking and using the extra that's there. I'm not suggesting using all of it, but I'm using some of it. So it would be reduced down to what?
It's currently 19.6%. Reduce it down to 19.1%.
So still exceeding the goal of the city council and the fiscal policy committee, and not increasing the tax rate. Council Champlin.
Yes, Your Honor, thanks, and thanks for that conversation that gave me a few seconds to look this over more and think about it. There's a lot in here that I like. Some of it is cultural. I think it's a great idea to get that coach out onto Main Street. A lot of people may not realize that the Concord coach is one of the symbols of the city, and one of the things that we're most known for historically. The stagecoaches that opened the West, that help people communicate and travel, were built right here in Concord by Abbott and Downing. I also applaud your effort to create a fund to make grants for events. I think as someone who's worked on various events in the city like the Capitol Fest, the city's support is always important, not only fiscally, but also as a symbol of what our priorities are, and that we're very interested in making Concord a vibrant place to live and work. I also would like to say that I support the outreach social worker. I agree with you that address off of our officers provide depth in terms of dealing with a lot of oriented, but we respond as very to the
during our and backlog of need, and he said they need truck drivers. They need the help. So I don't think it could be shared with that person. And I also page of recommendations. You increased it much more than I did. I increased CIP item 644 street tree planting, but I feel like we give them more money, but they also need the manpower. So I think they could absolutely use that support. They, without sharing.
Thank you. Councilor Todd?
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Champlin. I think that the grants for events idea is a great concept, especially considering that we have these dollars sitting in the economic reserve fund and it's not being used. I think it's a great use for it. My only question is, it's going to go into the city manager's budget. Is there any anticipation that there would be an issue in terms of staff time processing these forms and going through? Is that something that we feel that we can handle, I assume?
I heard this today. So we'd have to set up a system. Yeah, yes, we could handle the existing stuff. And we just come up with some sort of system. I'd rather have something that probably, as the mayor said, probably something that's rolling would be the best, instead of having, like we do with the social service. It'd be something that would be out there available at all times for people to come up with good ideas, and we could make sure that if all the money doesn't get used, it's because it's from the reserve. You'd either go back to the reserve or it can flow through to the following year. Because a lot of folks, if you have a successful program, want to continue that going forward. So this is, being it's coming out of reserve, it's one-time dollars. But you want to, if it's successful, I think you'd want to keep funding. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Massey?
Thank you. Just a few questions and comments. Number one, I think adding the consistency prosecutor makes a lot of sense. That's a very good addition to the budget. I'm curious on the grants for how you came up with amount. To that, but how you should sort of work that.
It's funded, the position there, then that. No, and for some really great innovative ideas that we had before, this would give an opportunity for some of that to happen.
Follow up, the 140,000 for DEI training seems to me to be a large number. is your expectation that the money's gonna be spent for training not only of the council, but also in connection with the work of the diversity committee?
Oh, yeah, this is somebody, in my mind, is gonna wake up every day and think about, how they can make Concord, we can make Concord a better place, and, everything from policies to outreach and to work with, eventually the three of us, as committee members move on, we with the city, work with the administration, but be really focused and dedicated on just work. And I think it's important that we bring the school in with us, the whole group of individuals that we have access to, and that partnership, I think, would make a lot of sense. And the school board has been very willing to want to work with us.
Is the expectation that while this may not necessarily be a city employee, that it will be an individual who's acting on behalf of both the city and the school?
I think that's the goal, yes.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you doing this, Mr. Mayor. It's very thoughtful and brings up a lot of the testimony we heard, and especially for very much needed projects and people. I have a question on the grants for events. Do you envision the city manager will develop some kind of policy? So,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Thank you. And how to proceed forward.
Ideally, I'd like a motion, and then the second sheet, I guess.
Okay, and I do have one item whenever you want to fit me in. After we do your
How
sheet.
about now? Let's do it now.
Okay. I have, I don't think it will be a surprise to anyone, page 301, CIP number 52. I would like to amend the $383,775 appropriation. That does include the impact fee. And I would like to amend it that we would fund $40,000 to keep the design and to do the outreach that is stated in CIP 52. That would leave $343,775. I would like to add a new project, $130,000 for a new modular vehicle barrier. I think we heard the testimony from In-Town Concord, how important that is, and I think now for public safety, and especially for all our groups events, I mean, we can't, it seems like they've done a lot of work on this, and I think I think this is a very needed public safety piece. I also, even though we can't get it in place in time for market days, we do have other events like the Multicultural Festival, the Halloween Howl, Midnight Merriment, and anything else that might happen. We're a capital state and with primaries coming on. I would propose that the remaining $213,775 be asterisked in the FY25 budget for the sports field, youth sports field lights. And I'm proposing that because I think it would be best case scenario to have those lights in place by the end of next spring. Just to have at least 2 public outreach community meetings, doing the pros and cons and hearing the butters and all the user groups, and I think get a handle on who's using our fields and who is using our fields properly. And I think it's not the idea to move the lights completely out of the budget, but I think with the movement of Memorial Field and pushing back Terrell Park, I think we should take a real hard look on where Keach Park fits into when we start construction on Terrell Park. Because like to clock the call it much we should the light by then. Lights do need some of the things that slow down time. Lights do need an FAA. It's because of the glare of the lights. It's in the take pattern of flight. Also, because lights affect the circle as a whole. Night sky. Not just the human very game. So we're building that we can't keep, but people would be disappointed that the lights did not happen as quickly as we thought they would do. And I do think that the new modular vehicle barrier that was presented by In-Town Concord is something that we should have as a community for the events we do and the more events we would do. So not looking to delete anything, I'm just looking to have a realistic time frame and use the savings for that to put on a needed safety piece, a needed equipment.
Okay, so could I ask you to do me a favor? So I had a tough time following along to what you
Okay.
were doing, all the moves you make. So could I ask you to work, to just run down with our finance director so that I understand exactly what CIP items and what,
Just CIP 52, and a new item.
and then while you're doing that, I'll recognize Council Brown and we can talk about your sheet. How's that?
Okay, oh, we're gonna talk about my sheet, okay. Because I would like to respond to Councilor Bouchard, but I appreciate I wasn't quite following along with her numbers. So, real quickly, I'd just like to point out some things that I noted in our 2024 budget, page 152. There's a position that we voted to remove. The Director of Redevelopment, Downtown Services Special Projects is included in a line and block chart between the city manager and parking enforcement and division. So I just feel like we need to correct that. It's on page 152 of the budget. If you flip over, so I think we need to correct that. Also,
So you, just, can you tell me how you organize this?
so one, I organized how we need, things that I believe are in error in the budget. And numbers or dollars.
Okay, so
Same page as Mr. Walsh. And just before the first sentence that's there, it adds context to that sentence. This area's first settlement was named Pennacook. It explains why it's named Pennacook.
where does this come from? Okay, keep going.
Okay, and the third is this was confirmed by the planning board, or planning department, I'm sorry. Today, the information is not from the 2019 Census Bureau, it's from the 2020 Census Bureau, and I would like the numbers to reflect the population and density by ward, because I think it gives us a better reference of how our city is laid out. It shows which wards are more densely populated and the square miles of each ward. And I think it's significant, and it speaks, it gives a different 680.
The bottom section where area just
Like-
you just cross 20 10.
I recommend removing, just as you had said, removing the 7,500 programs the amount of 100, as it also has the goal of community partnerships. So, because I have removed 100, I'm trying to stick to not adding any. There's a program called All Kids Bike that I have been talking with Kathleen Murphy, Anthony from Abbott Downing. It's a program where the school applies for these bikes, and for $9,000 they would receive 24 balance bikes with 24 helmets, an 8-week curriculum, an instructor bike, a conversion kit for the instructor bike, and 2 metal rolling racks. And these are for kindergartners to learn how to bike in school. Initially, I was speaking with Tim Blagden from the Concord Sunapee Rail Trail, and we were talking about these bikes. They have a lifespan of 7 to 10 years. Having them rotate in 8-week segments to different schools. Currently, Abbott Downing has about 58 kids. The Pennacook Elementary School has 60 kindergarten kids. For a small amount, and I talked with Kathleen Murphy today, they would go halves with us. So for $4,500, 20 bikes, we could then rotate that among the elementary school, and we are teaching all of Concord's kindergartners how to ride in school. I just very there are 261 under the age of 5. So small amount of buying is equitable. They would learn it in schools. The teachers are very interested and excited, and Anthony Blinn, the principal, is willing to be that pilot person. If we rotate them from school to school, it avoids the 2-year warranty, but he's open to that. This is $9,000 that we would split with the school district. And I was looking at using the funds from the previously canceled arts. So $4,500 for that. I was also looking at our special programs. Communities regularly, those students, those in the 3 main housing developments. Yeah. I've been doing with them 2 hours a month. What I do, he does a lot of teaching and training. She has students get full scholarships. It's incredible. I think service for also part of that. So removing the art, the 7,500 from arts. I also considered in the lowering from 7,500 because that's what every year. I also believe that we need, as Councilor Bernard had said, that we do need to look at equity in our parks and how they're used, and I think it needs to expand to include the golf course. So I would like to pause. 235 golf course grounds improvements. We've spent $1.2 million on irrigation, another $1 million projected, plus a $500,000 center is not open every day. It is open 360 days are at most that use 160 days. Seen much used by how many sports, how many people, and that's 10 acres. So I feel we really do need to examine recreation, and I think that has to include sports. And those are all my. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Brown? Councilor, for all this work, the all-kids bike program, I think if we were to fund this, there would be blurring of the lines between this.
Well, I talked with Kathleen in partnership on the Memorial Field. If we fund it, if we fund part of it, is part of American Ballot, way that we can also support the students and road trips amongst different schools. Is something that it satisfies our goal as a city council or transportation.
So is that a no? You don't believe that the blurring lines?
I don't.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor.
Honor, my recommendation that we're going to have some sort of conversation with the school district that probably ought to run through the joint and city council committee. That what we're just have those conversations together. With the multicultural assessment. I also support the mayor's recommendation to the program. We do have a city program now for for that any time. I was concerned that we're just giving out money to something formally and provide financial performance and everything else that goes along with that grant submission, and just support you. Is that completed?
This is a city priority to teach kids how to ride bicycles.
Your Honor. So I'll just tell you the origin. I was inspired by the Library of Things, that people can go and test things out. And I actually spoke with Mr. Gill because I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had bikes? That people who don't have bikes could go check out a bike. And through my conversations with other bike enthusiasts, that's when I learned about this program. Mr. Gill had said, well, storage is going to be an issue. You know, maintenance is going to be an issue, those kinds of things. Something like this program allows kindergartners, our kindergartners, to learn in school by a teacher. It's stored at the school. They receive training. They have a curriculum. So it's us, I see it as us supporting our kids learning how to ride.
Okay. Follow up, Your Honor. Are there any, have you spoken to either legal counsel for the school district or the city's legal department about any liability issues?
No, I have not. Although they do work with, All Kids Bike obviously works with schools, and I know I called the program last week and I spoke with the school logistics officer, and she had said that they're in Georgia, the school applied and the city paid for the bikes for the school district. So it has been done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Before I do, Mr. Manager, has anybody from the school district actually contacted us about this?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. And thank you for putting this together, Counselor. Question on item C under general overhead, the $1,500 for Project Story to apply the community center. Is there a reason why you don't want to send this to Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee, or have more in-depth conversation on whether especially in the summer would be tough for space. And my other concern with Project Story, it is a for-profit. They do their fundraising. The volunteers like yourself even have a fundraising button now for stipends for the volunteers. And from their website, I'm not sure if they've been totally transparent with the city. There seems to be a soccer club that's running out of Keach Park, also a summer camp. I think I'd like to know a little bit about that. I'd also like to know if the volunteers are following RSA 170E, which is basically the background check for any volunteer. Doesn't matter if it's a business, nonprofit, or just volunteers. I think I'd have a lot of questions here. But basically, to give out some space, I think it should, follow the regular channels.
I can't speak to the other issues. I can talk about Civics Academy. I haven't gone through a background check for them, but Sharm does carry, I believe, liability insurance. She could obviously speak to this. This is money that would be used directly for space, nothing else. And I believe that stipends for volunteers might just be travel. I didn't receive a stipend. I know that a lot of her support staff are probably not receiving any funding. And the camps, it's really, she is taking care of all of these kids at the park because they can't afford the Parks and Rec classes. So, when she calls it a camp, it's her taking these kids and giving them or in organized time, and it's nobody else is doing that.
Well, I'm not sure if nobody else is doing that, but, you are aware that there are scholarships, and, the children do get scholarships. And
She has 90 kids.
Let her ask the questions first.
And Parks and Rec does have the ability to translate for different languages, and the Overcomers have been very helpful with translating to parents and to children. My concern is, as you just said, she doesn't have 90 kids. She has 90 children in her care, 90 children of a very vulnerable population. And I think with using our city park, without even, I don't even know if Parks and Rec or the director knows that there's been this soccer club and summer camp running out of the park. I believe there's a liability form that users sign with the city when they're on public property. But more importantly, with this vulnerable population, I think our safety net should be the same as the safety net for any child, which would be an organization that would follow state laws concerning children.
Point of order.
No, we're asking for money.
I have a point
Go
of
ahead,
order. I'm concerned that we're speaking about about a local group in our community and a hometown hero, Concord Monitor Hometown Hero of the Week, without allowing them to respond, and these are pretty big accusations that impugn on the credibility of that organization.
Hold on.
So unless these questions have been asked of the organization, and we know for fact that these things have not been adhered to, I would be very cautious for this body in this public space to undermine the credibility of an organization that is well known in our community for the good works that they're doing.
I'm not saying they're
I
not
think
doing.
safety
I'll
is
answer.
important.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Your point is well taken, but it has been brought up, a specific organization has brought up on this sheet of paper to be funded by city tax dollars. So I think that it is worthy discussion to talk about not only the dollars, but the organization of who the community would be giving money to. So
Thank
in
you.
that case, she can continue
May
to
I
speak.
follow up, Mayor?
You have further
It-
point of
it's-
order?
It's not, if these are questions that have been asked of the organization and that we know the responses to, then I think it is definitely fair game to talk about. But what I am hearing are, some could say are questions of concern, others could say accusations. We do not know, and we do not have the people on this body to answer those questions, and I'm very uncomfortable with this conversation.
I think
Unless
that-
those
I think
questions
that-
have been asked already, and if
I
they
think that
have,
Councilor Brown has brought it up. She can answer the questions, and the questions are fair.
I don't believe
Continue,
Councilor
Mayor Pro
Brown,
Tem.
as a
Please
volunteer,
continue.
should answer those
Mayor Pro
questions
Tem?
on behalf of the
I
organization.
am just, thank you.
Just to be
thank you, Ms.
clear, this was brought up. We're discussing what was brought up. I think it's a fair discussion to have. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm not
So
accusing
noted.
anyone of anything. I am just bringing up what is on Project Story's website. And I just think before we give money, I think we need to have more clarification. That's all I'm saying. Actually, the website changed over the weekend. So I'm just looking to make sure that it does very, very good things. The Project Story is a great organization, but I think it needs to follow the same checks and balances of everybody else who rents space inside or outside of the community center. That's all I'm saying.
Question?
That's a fair question. Go ahead. Question of
Thank
who?
you. Councilor Bouchard, you sit on the Parks and Rec Committee. Have you ever asked these questions as part of RPAC? And have you asked these questions of other organizations that use that space?
Quite frankly, I never asked the questions. I was curious about exactly what Project Story does. And I went on the website just to become more familiar with all the good work that they do. And I was actually kind of, I was surprised to learn about their Keach Park soccer program, and the former website had a summer camp that happened. So I'm just relating what is on the website, and
Sure.
So to be clear, you have not asked the organization these questions directly, despite Project Story being a part of your ward and a frequent user of the citywide community center for several years now. Nor have you
Project
asked these
Story has
questions
not
of-
been
hold
in
on, I'm
front
not
of
done.
RPAC to ask for money.
No.
And if I had known what was on the website, I would have asked those questions. They're just simple questions.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to finish
Last
my
question.
question.
Last question.
Thank you. And you have asked these of other users of the park, even if they don't do rental spaces.
Well, I think that comes down to why I'd like to, when we have the community meetings for the lights, that we can get a handle on who's using the park and when they are using it, and making sure that all users are following the same protocol. I'm not saying Project Story's not. I'm just relating what I read on their website. I followed up with an information sheet to Director Gill on questions that Councilor Brown brought up in an information sheet on wanting to know what leagues and camps use the park. And and you should have it, with the information sheet, I copied the Keach Park Soccer Club and their other program, and I don't believe that the director was aware of those.
Thank you.
My question, please.
So,
I was going to make a suggestion. Perhaps we could bring up the director to ask some of these questions related to liability waivers and whatnot.
Well, I mean,
It's a suggestion.
I guess how deep do we want to go into one particular thing? We're talking about $1,500 is being suggested, and I'm actually suggesting $150,000 for a grant program that somebody could apply for. So we could, hope that puts in perspective. Councilor Zandris Hawkins,
Thank you. I had a couple of questions on other sections, if I may.
please.
So for the DEI training line in the city council budget, $140,000.
Are you talking about my proposal?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
There was a mention of the school district participating. Has that gone through the joint school and city council meeting that Councilor Kretovic mentioned? And has there been any allocation on their side?
So discussion took place at one of our sessions that we had at Pennacook. The Concord School District attended. I was approached by the superintendent as well as the president of this, I guess they're called president, president of the school board? Is that what they are?
Sure.
School board, Mr. Richards, and that's where the conversation took place.
And follow? I like this expenditure. I would suggest that we break it up slightly differently. There's $140,000 allocated here. I think we heard during the listening sessions, the three that were held around the community, that there is a big need for space to gather for multicultural purposes and for diverse groups in our city for lots of different reasons. And so I would suggest that we take $30,000 of this and apply it to funds for a dedicated multicultural room at the citywide community center. I think that may alleviate the concerns that folks have around this specific budget item. In Councilor Brown's proposal for $1,500, and we leave it to the DEI committee and RPAC to figure out arrangements for the use of that space. That we take $10,000 for translation and outreach services. One of the things that was identified is we don't have great opportunities for translation through city communications right now, and I think that wouldn't be an immediate way to bring more community members in. I say translation loosely because it's not just English as a second language, but also other ways of communicating with folks who may experience a disability in our community. And then we take the other $30,000 to have an implementation fund for things that the DEI committee and consultant identify as immediate needs and priorities. That leaves $70,000 for a consultant to run a year-long strategic process and help us guide us through that. So that's how I would suggest that we allocate that $140,000. Thank you.
That's great.
Honor. I really like the idea that the 3 listening sessions that you had were held at different times in different areas of the city. And we've heard from people about the challenges in regards to transportation. And we are in the summer months. We do have good weather. We have a beautiful tent at Beaver Meadow that doesn't cost $30,000 to rent. And I think in moving these sessions across the city, that it would be important that we're hearing from all different areas of the city on ways in which we can improve. If we're going to break things down and have budget for having listening sessions throughout the city, it seems to me the $140,000 should be increased. I don't think $70,000 is going to be enough to hire a consultant to do all the things that we would like to do. I do think the $70,000 or $30,000, excuse me, for an implementation fund is a great idea. I also think it's something that we can do after we have our listening sessions with our consultant.
Thank you. Anyone else? Gus Pierce?
I think I understand what Councilor Rice Hawkins is trying to do, but I have some experience with philanthropy, and I think somehow you may run the risk if you pre-allocate a certain pot of money to certain groups. If those particular groups don't ask for that money, then it becomes money unspent. So I'm in favor of all those things that you said, that there, once a process is determined, that they ask for the money, and they may have a great idea that's worth $50,000, I don't know. But I would caution pre-allocating a certain pot of money to just individual groups. Just my thoughts.
Councilor Rice Hawkins?
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Is that about the $30,000 implementation fund that you're referring to?
I'm sorry, the what?
Is your concern around the $30,000 implementation fund for the DEI committee?
No, I hear you listing, if maybe I misheard, but I heard you listing organizations that you thought should have some money earmarked for themselves. Did I misunderstand that?
May thank you. Yes, but I appreciate your question to clarify it. So I'm suggesting that we allocate $30,000 of that to basically back fund the citywide community center to have a dedicated space that can serve as a multicultural function room. So groups would still need to come and be a part of a process with the DEI committee and RPAC to determine, who will use that allocation during what time. So there'd still be a process there. I'm not naming any particular groups, although I think we could all imagine which types of groups may feel that they fit that and apply for the use of that space. And then the other $30,000, I'm suggesting that we have as basically a pot of money for the DEI committee, so that we're not just setting up a consultant to lead us through a strategic process and help us identify things that we can do to become a more welcoming, inclusive city of belonging, but also have funds to be able to implement the things that are identified. And I would rather do that without waiting an entire year for that process to happen. I think we have all been parts of this conversation for several years now, and I think that if we have a consultant guiding us through that, having funds available to them for implementing some of the things that we identify would be helpful. I still do think that that could include a process to come back to City Council for an allocation of those grant funds, and could be set up similar to how some of these other grants are set, earmarked grant funds are set up right now, if that makes more sense.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Brown?
I would just like to say thank you, Counselor. I appreciate your thoughtful recommendation. I love what you say, and if it makes others more comfortable, then I would pull back the item C, 1,500 for Project Story, and instead have the 30,000 towards the multicultural space. Thank you for that excellent suggestion.
Councilor Garcia?
Thank you. I think I'll direct this to Councilor Rice Hawkins. When you say the 30,000 for a multicultural space, is your expectation that this is a source of funds that would simply go towards the payment of rental fees? Or are you saying there's going to be a dedicated room at the Citywide Community Center that would be used for groups that met the definition of multicultural?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. I would like to see a dedicated space because I think that that is what the community's asked for, and I think it actually puts a little agency behind the work that we're trying to do. But I do think that that is part of a conversation with the needs of the community. So, you know, if we had program room for dedicated to that, maybe actually what some of these groups would rather have is 2 hours of basketball time. So if you plan for a program room, that allocation gets you about 32 hours a week. And we can kind of figure out, that's where I think the DI committee and ARTPAC can work together to figure out what makes the most sense. But we have a lot of program room time that is not used consistently, and we have peak hours, which are, so I think it'd be important to have some dedicated space that some of those after-school programs or other evening meeting space where people know that they can gather. And because we are talking about communities that have typically been more marginalized in our community, being able to meet during those high-demand hours and know that that space is available is important to me. I also just think it's a good look for the city to make that investment and to live by the values that we have stated.
I think it's a good idea, but I think we need to bring in all the groups that would be interested, because right now we have Overcomers in the Citywide Community Center. I believe we're shortly going to have Project Second Start. I think there's Second Start. And they were, I think, as you wisely did years ago, Mr. Mayor, with the Summer Children's Food Program. We had no idea what groups were out there providing services. And I think if we can have all the groups that provide services, and then we could really come up with a model of what was needed, that would be useful for everyone. We have the Family Center there. I know CAP has a program that helps the adults at home and children, and I think we have a lot of good things going on in the city and a lot of good groups and a lot of good volunteers, but I don't think we're all talking together. I think we have a lot of silos, and I think it'd be great to bring those silos together, and if we're going to do something like this, do it right so it's something that everybody can use and have input on.
Councilor Garcia?
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it an appropriate time for a motion?
Sure.
I would like to move the proposed amendments on the sheet distributed by the mayor with the addition of the $20,000 for the tree canopy, which is, I believe, CIP 644.
Second.
I'll just, the one you gotta write in if you don't mind. So when you go back up to fund, from fund balance, the 280, 150 would be changed to 295, 150. Just wanna make sure that's included as well. All right, we have a motion to adopt the changes that were proposed by myself, including item 644, with motion been seconded. Discussion. Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Can you remind me, can I make an amendment to this motion?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. I would like to amend the proposal to divide line 12, the city council budget, $140,000 for DEI training, or $70,000 for consultant, $30,000 for multicultural space use at the citywide community center, $10,000 for translation services, and $30,000 implementation fund for DEIJB efforts.
I apologize. Can you say the last 30,000 one more time?
Oh, you're challenging that there. Okay. 70.
Oh, implementation. Got it. Got it.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Has it been seconded?
Second.
Thank you. So we'll take up the proposed.
I'm sorry.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
I was going to make an amendment, but
Oh, not
Okay.
yet, not yet. So we have an amendment before us. The amendment is to change line 12, the 140, to break it down into 70, 30, 10, and 30. Is that correct? For simple purposes, is that fair? Okay. I would ask you to, I do appreciate the intention. I believe I understand where you're going. I'm with you about 90% of the way. I would like to keep the lump sum together at this point. I think there's ways to achieve what you're looking to achieve, particularly with the room usage. I think that can come out of some other possibilities. I think that I'd like to give the committee a little more time, as opposed to us saying what we think should up here. This should actually be something we should actually talk about more as a community than just here. So at this time, I would ask that we not accept the amendment, but I do want to acknowledge, I appreciate the direction you're going. Further comment?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to speak to the amendment. At all three of the community listening sessions, this was a common theme. We heard it from individuals and organizations that would use this space, and we heard it from community members who were concerned about DIJB efforts in our city. This is a very immediate and tangible outcome that we can implement right now. And I think that particularly for a lot of the individuals who came and shared personal experiences in the city, one of the things that we've heard repeatedly, and which we know to be true as a society, is there is often this sense of come and share your stories, bleed for us, and we're going to put together another committee and another listening session and another plan and another consultant in order to implement the changes. And I am, for one, I'm just kind of tired of waiting. This is a pretty easy ask that many community members have asked us for, and which is at the intersection of a lot of the needs that have been identified through not only those conversations, but things that we have heard repeatedly at RPAC and at the City Council. So I would really encourage this committee, this council, to not wait again. After the murder of George Floyd, we heard a lot about we shouldn't do a racial justice statement. We should wait and form a committee. It's been 3 years. The committee finally formed. We've had 3 listening sessions. We got some feedback and some direction on next steps. And now here's an immediate opportunity to put it into action. And folks are saying wait. So I would just question, what are we doing if we are not actually acting on the things that the community members have asked us to do? This seems like a pretty easy one to me.
Thank you very much. I would just respond simply, this is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I put the $140,000 in there for a reason. The reason is I'm trying to work with the school district to make sure, because we don't know exactly what they'll come up with. I don't think we are untimely. I think we're very timely. I think we have hit all the right things. I think we've looked internally and done all the right things internally, and now we're looking externally, and I think we are well on the road to having a very successful campaign, as opposed to some knee-jerk reaction flounder, which somewhat other communities did. I think we're being incredibly thoughtful, and I think we're going to be incredibly effective because of we're being incredibly thoughtful. So we do have the amendment before us. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the roll, and I'll vote no. Council Brown.
yes.
Council Champlin.
No.
Council Fennessy.
no.
Council Grady Sexton.
No.
Council Keach.
No.
Council Kretovic.
No.
Council Mattson.
No.
Council McLaughlin.
No.
Council McNamara.
No.
Council Nyan.
No.
Council Pierce.
No.
Council Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Council Todd.
No.
And Council Bouchard.
No.
Motion fails. Okay, we have the original motion before us pending, and Council Brown.
Yes, I would like to make an amendment that for the general fund, the highway services, the shared labor is not shared with the golf course. That is, the golf course can help pay for it because we know that the golf course has received services from general services, Parks and Rec, so they can certainly contribute. But the general services absolutely needs all the support they can get to plant more trees. So that is my amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Just keep bouncing back and forth. Okay, we have a motion that would strike, basically on this page, it says for golf fund, one, add golf budget 50,696, PCR 109. Is that to be struck, is that correct?
So the way it's written, excuse me, Your Honor, the way it's written was the golf fund, the golf budget contributing to it?
Yes.
Yes, I would like the golf fund to contribute, but I would like it to be for general services.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Council Knight.
I'm still confused. So
So
we're,
it strikes the shared labor truck driver for the golf course Beaver Meadow. But it does take the $50,000 from the golf fund
Correct.
to have the shared, no longer shared, I apologize, to pay for the position in general services highway budget.
For a laborer truck driver position.
Yes. Did I explain it
Yes,
correctly?
and thank you, and I agree that it should be for clearing sidewalks in the winter, planting trees in the summer. That is how I envision this position being utilized.
if I can clarify, maybe for all the lay people around here. So the intent is that this would not be shared by the golf course at all. They would not have the benefit of the equipment, but they'll pay for it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. During one of the previous budget conversations, it came up that the golf course uses some general services activity without contributing back to it. Thank you.
Actually, I believe I corrected that, and it was corrected afterwards. They share things all the time back and forth. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, so just to correct that.
If I may clarify,
Please.
it is not
Well, I
reflected.
think I clarified.
It is not reflected in our budget documents in that
Would
way.
you believe it was clarified at the council table? Thank you. I
I-
know you believe that, so,
I think that we're saying
Is there anyone
the
else
same
who'd like to
thing,
speak?
that it's not reflected in the budget document.
fair enough. Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion before us. I would hope you would strike this down. This just seems a complete crazy inequity to me, and I can't think of another word, and I apologize for using that. But if the golf fund is gonna pay for it, then they should see the benefit of it as well. I think that these are both in the PCRs. It came to us for a reason. And I think that the two do work hand in hand very well. I think that if we are going to support, and if you can see by the change I've made, the additional $1 million we're adding to sidewalks, I think we do need additional personnel, the shared worker. So that makes a lot of sense. I think the complement to the side in which, when it's hard to hire part-time folks and work needs to be done at the golf course. Also, it can be done during the ski season if necessary. It can be done during skating. It can be done, there's a lot of different possibilities. So the shared seems to be a smart move for both. And if they're both contributing, they both should see the benefit. That's my opinion. So is there anyone else? Okay, we'll call for roll call. And I vote no. Council Brown,
Yes.
Council Champlin,
No.
Council Fennessy,
No.
Council Grace Sexton.
No.
Council Keach.
No.
Council Kretovic.
Nope.
Council Mattson.
No.
Council McLaughlin.
No.
Council McNamara.
No.
Council Nyan.
No.
Council Pierce.
No.
Council Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Council Todd.
No.
Councilor Bouchard.
No.
Motion fails. Okay, we're back to the original motion. Is there any other amendments?
Thank you.
Council Bouchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add a new item to the CIP, and I'd like to move $130,000 for a modular vehicle barrier. I think the testimony was compelling, and I think the need for the city to have something like this with the events that we currently have and will have in the future. And I don't think, as a city, we should think that we're immune to some of the horrible, bad actors and events that happen in other communities. So I move $130,000 for a new CIP item, and I apologize not speaking to the manager earlier today. That's all, yeah, so,
Okay, so we have a motion just made to add a new CIP item that would add $130,000 to purchase barriers that were presented to us during the testimony. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. I have no idea. Council Nine.
I think I have a question, which is, I believe the resident made some compelling testimony. I believe the testimony included how effective these particular devices are, but one thing that I kept in the back of my mind, I didn't ask the question then, I didn't know I'd be discussing it tonight, is the example was this would be used for a parade, and how many of these devices do we need to cover a parade route? Are we gonna pick them up and run them down the road as the parade progresses, or in what exactly are we purchasing? So I feel uncomfortable voting for this until I understand the magnitude of what we're really talking about. My understanding is the cost item as it was presented during testimony was for one unit. And one unit isn't going to cover any parade route that we have in the city. So I don't know how effective they're gonna be, and I would actually like to entertain, you know, asking staff to look into it in a little bit more detail and maybe having a discussion about this throughout the year and actually getting some real cost estimates provided by the city rather than those provided by the general public.
Thank you. Vice Chaplain?
Thank you, Your Honor. I applaud the Mayor Pro Tem for bringing this forward. I think that the safety of our public events is really critical. I distinctly remember that when Ms. Martin from InTown was talking about this, that she suggested that we try to apply, that the city apply for federal Homeland Security grant to pay for units. She indicated, I think that's how one of the municipalities she talked about, Nashua or Manchester, had acquired these units. And I guess I would suggest that we follow that path. See, because our staff has been eminently successful at applying for federal grants, particularly in the safety services area. So I would respectfully not vote in favor of your motion, because I would rather see us follow that route.
Mayor Pro Tem.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Counselor, for bringing that up, because I did not make a note about being able to apply for a Homeland Security grant, and if we can do that sooner rather than later, I'm perfectly happy to go that route, but I think this is something that should be on our radar, whether it's this system here or something else.
I agree, thank you.
Fennessy.
Can I jump the line? I think the number we remember at the hearing was 260. And this, because the recommendation was for 2 units.
Two.
This is 1 unit.
129
So that's
yeah,
why
they were 129 each.
But I think the quote was for 2, and 1 unit set costs 130. So
And
that's why there's 2 numbers.
I will respectfully withdraw my amendment, but the point was to get it on the, make it a hot potato item that we will follow through the year. Thank you, Mr.
I
Mayor.
will as well, Your Honor, with the notion that it was our public safety, fire, and police that had brought this to in-town Concord.
Okay. Well, that was easy. Okay. Any other amendments? Seeing no further amendments. Are you ready for the question? Okay, do a roll call. I vote yes. Council Brown. Council Brown.
I will vote yes.
Council Champlin.
Point of information, Your Honor?
Yes.
We're voting on the, thank you, I vote yes.
Thank you. Council Fennessy.
Yes.
Council Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Council Keach.
Yes.
Council Kretovic.
Yes.
Council Mattson.
Yes.
Council McLaughlin.
Yes.
Council McNamara.
Yes.
Council Nyan.
Yes.
Council Pierce.
Yes.
Council Royce Hawkins.
Yes.
And Council Bouchard.
Yes.
Your Honor, I vote yes as well.
Bottom of the list.
You gotta go all the way to the-
You know what, I hadn't called the vote yet, so there you go. That's a tie, that's yes. And then it passes, adopted unanimously. Okay, that's, why don't we take up, Councilor Brown's sheet next?
You
if
want
that's-
to go on the highlighted side?
I was going to ask for a motion, so
Okay.
if you want to make a motion.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion, if, looking at the page that is highlighted, there are 4 items I recommend changing in the fiscal year 2024 budget. The line item correction for parking division, correcting the community development deputy city manager, including the sentence recognizing the Native Americans who lived here before us, and the correction to the breakout of the population density and land area by ward.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So number one,
Can I ask a question first? Sure. I just have a question with respect to the ward areas and the densities. Is that before or after redistricting?
That's after redistricting.
Okay, thank you.
okay, any discussion? Council Pierce?
On what will we be voting? Are we taking these separately?
Nope. The motion was
That's a
made
swing.
to adopt this, basically this side of the page.
Okay.
So, okay, Council Knight, you go first.
Thanks, Your Honor. Do we need a motion to make immaterial edits such as, the 152, we gonna correct it?
Not really, but I think it's best to just get it on the record.
Fair enough, thank you.
So I was gonna say, with page 152, I have no personal problem with that one. In terms of page 645, the item number 1, fine. I don't think that's anybody's fault. I mean, it's when the book was put together, that's who kind of was there. Item 3, the population, fine by me, if the numbers are correct, they're correct. Item 2, under 645, the only thing I don't know is it true? I mean, I guess basically it's you telling me this is true, so I either believe you or I would love somebody to confirm it. I don't mind changing it. It doesn't seem like a big change, but
Your Honor, I can,
if I could just finish.
oh, sure, I thought you were.
So with item number 2, I just don't know whether we want to move forward this one time. And as I said, not because I think it's a huge change. Seems if it's true, it's fine. I just would love someone else to confirm this, and I would love to know where the actual language came from on 645. How long has it been there? Is that something that's existed forever? Is that something that comes out directly, some sort of Concord historical book? So what are we actually changing, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So with that, doesn't seem like a big deal. I just question number 2 because I'm just not sure. Councilor Brown, would you like to?
Sorry, Your Honor. I can tell you that I pulled it directly from the City of Concord's history page. I typed in City of Concord origin, and it came up, and it broke it down by centuries. It started with 1600. The only language that I added to was thousands. I added thousands of years per the Visit Concord Chamber of Commerce. They talked about the thousands of years. We have artifacts, actual artifacts in the library right now on display that prove Native Americans were living at Turtle Pond thousands of years. And we have the testimony from the Poulos, who spoke from the Kawasuk Band of Abenaki and Pennacook Native Americans, that they were stewards for 13,000 years. So that is why I added the word thousands, but that sentence is directly from our website.
Thank you. Councilor Pierce.
This is interesting. I'm missing 2 words. I always thought there was a tribe known originally as the Pennycook, and it was the town of Rumford that eventually became Concord. and I don't see that mentioned here.
That's great.
Thank you, Your Honor. In, it was originally called Fisherville and Rumford, and then there was this group of squatters. And then the king said, hey, come together, have a Concord, and named it Concord. I think that, in general, I don't have any, I don't take issue with the fact that this should be revised. We also heard from the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, Belonging sessions that we should have some sort of statement that the city makes in regards to the Native American heritage of our city. And that should be something that we should take under by that committee, by our community sessions, or if we want to be factually correct about what is here for the origin of our city, just send it to the Heritage Commission and let's do it. I'm not generally opposed to this change for this year in the budget cycle, but if we're going to get it right, let's get it right, real right.
So, Councilor Brown, let me ask you this. Would you be willing to remove this item, number 2 under 645 from your motion and come back at the next meeting or refer it to Heritage, just so we get it right?
Your Honor, this is one sentence, and I pulled it directly from our website. So I don't see this as a heavy lift. We can change it next year if it is incorrect. But the only word I added was thousands. So I don't see this as, really controversial.
I don't either, but I just figure if we're going to do it, might as well do it right. That's all. Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Your Honor. I actually support Councilor Krenovik's idea of sending it to the Heritage Commission. Let's do it. Let's have a collective discussion and memorialize it going forward. Makes sense to do it the proper way. No
So-
offense. I think I have
so-
no fundamental opposal, but let's do it the right way. Thank you.
Councilor Rice.
Thank you. I think we pass it tonight and send it over to improve our website and the language overall that the city is using and make sure that we're historically accurate and reflective of our entire community. I don't think it hurts us to update this here with a one single line update and then to move forward.
Councilor Rice.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Councilor Brown, for actually bringing this forward, because I do think it makes sense that we need to always reevaluate how we're describing what we are. My concern in making the change now is, from what I've heard, the one thing that was changed was adding thousands to what you found. And I have no idea whether that's accurate or not, whether it was populated for thousands of years by Native Americans known as Penacooks or not. I have no idea. So before we, have a formal document where we make that claim, I would be much more comfortable if we have some confirmation that that's accurate. I would suggest if we took thousands out, we'd probably be okay. I'd be okay with it. But making the assertion that the Penacooks were here for thousands of years, at least at this point, I have no idea whether that's true or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, I echo most of the information, the sentiments in the room. I don't have a problem with it directly, but I would really appreciate it being accurate. So I would prefer to see it go to the appropriate places for research. Thank you.
Councilor Brown, would you object to me simply dividing the question, singling this piece out, because I'd like to vote for the rest of it? But I'd like to refer this to the Heritage Commission and then let's clean up in all the documents throughout the city, not just the budget document. If you got it from the website, let's make sure the website's right. Let's make sure we're consistent and accurate throughout all of the stuff that we have out there. So
Your
that
Honor,
would be my intention.
May I ask that we do that at next month's city council meeting?
We can do it right now if we just.
Oh, I mean, but have that language next
Well,
city council.
I don't know what the schedule of the Heritage Commission is, and I don't think it's fair to ask them between now and, because the next city council meeting is actually next Monday. So,
I'm fine with separating.
thank you. So with that, we have a motion to adopt changes on page 152, 645, number 1 and number 3. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. I vote yes. Council Brown,
Yes.
Council Champlin,
Yes.
Council Fennessy,
Yes.
Council Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Council Keach.
Yes.
Council Kretovic,
Yes.
Council Mattson,
Yes.
Council McLaughlin,
Yes.
Council McNamara,
Yes.
Council Nyan,
Yes.
Council Pierce.
Yes.
Council Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
The incredible, wonderful Council Todd. Not to be forgotten. And Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes.
Motion's adopted. Can we get a motion to send item 2, Origin, to the Heritage Commission?
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Second.
And can we be more inclusive to make sure that this is not cleared up just in this budget document, but throughout the city documents? Is that
Correct.
Yes.
acceptable?
Yes.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. With that, they will do a voice. I'm sorry, Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. I'm just going to note for the record that the council is perfectly willing to add quickly the U.S. Census Bureau breakdown of a ton of numbers and without questioning the math on it or the source, but when it comes to taking something from our website to add it right now, wants to put it off yet again. So
I don't think that's true at all. It says right here at the bottom, it says that it was confirmed by the planning board of 6/5/2023.
I believe that Councilor Brown said that
Point of
this-
order, it was the planning department.
I'm sorry, that this information comes from our city website was my point.
The email verified it today.
Okay. So we have a motion, okay. We have a motion before us. Any further discussion? I vote yes. Council Brown,
Yes.
Council Champlin,
Yes.
Council Fennessy,
Yes.
Council Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Council Keach.
Yes.
Council Kretovic.
Yes.
Council Mattson,
Yes.
Council McLaughlin,
Yes.
Council McNamara,
Yes.
Council Nyan,
Yes.
Council Pierce,
Yes.
Council Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Council Todd.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes.
Motion's adopted. Okay, Council Brown, you want to take us to the other side of the sheet?
Great. All right, I make a motion that we create a line item for the Multicultural Festival to receive $2,500 as a new item under special programs. The Multicultural Festival has been going on for 16 years, and it has not received support from the city. Their expenses towards the city exceeded $2,000. This is recreation rental fees, fire inspection, police detail, and permits.
Second.
Motion made, so you're taking up individually, so item 1A is what the
Yes,
motion is.
correct,
And the
1A.
motion's been seconded. Mr. Manager, did the city support the Multicultural Festival at all last year?
We don't provide them with like a grant or anything like that, but we do waive some fees.
Got it, okay. Okay,
Your Honor,
yes, Council Champlin.
could I ask the city manager for detail on the fees that we waive?
So there's, we charge folks for, if there's an event or something going on in the community, so you use the community center as an example. We charge people to set up, break down, so essentially staff time cost for that. In this case, we don't charge the Multicultural Festival, so it's small dollars. It's only like $700, $750 or so. It goes up, of course, we increased wages and benefits recently, so that cost will increase over time. But it's just a very small amount, just as it's a great location to have it, and it helps the organization out a little bit.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
I don't think the organized event agrees with you at all, but that's okay.
Well,
So, we have a motion.
she
I think you just said Shugi said no. Oh, okay, then it's not true. You're wrong.
Okay.
So I'm going to vote no on this, not because I don't think they should get 2,500. I think that's actually too low. They probably should get more. And I think they should apply for the dollars that were approved in what we adopted earlier. Anyone else? Councilor Keach.
Yes, if I may, thank you, Your Honor. There's no question it's a wonderful event, but it's a very slippery slope when we start identifying different causes within the community and who needs to get funding, and I've been down this road a lot, and it's just a bad path to get on, because who's better than the other, and there's just limited number of dollars, and So I agree with you.
Anyone else? Councilor Krivik?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to agree with you, Your Honor, and Counselor Keach. When we have our funding program for special revenue out of the city manager's budget, it's a pretty extensive grant project or process in order to file for those grant dollars that we contribute taxpayer money to nonprofit organizations to support their services. The Coalition to End Homelessness is one of them. Last year, but not this year, the Crisis Center of Central New Hampshire, they come to mind because I do support those organizations. However, the financial detail that goes into that grant application is significant. It's not just they have over $2,000 in expenses. This is what it costs for general liability insurance. This is what it costs for porta potties. This is what it costs for the police. This is what we take in for sponsorship money. It's the out and the in of what it costs for every single one of the items that are operating the entire organization, not just a singular event. And so for that purpose, the grant program that the mayor has suggested here for the $150,000 to support events in our city that are meant to be economic drivers, that to me seems to be the most important place that we contribute to this excellent event and this excellent organization. But there does have to come with it this accounting to our taxpayers about what we're spending money on, and that accounting is the financials that go along with running and operating those events. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Chaplin.
Thanks, Your Honor. I think it goes without question that the Multicultural Festival is a jewel in the crown of Concord's public events. The city touts it, the city brags about it, we use it as a signifier of our diversity and the fact that we embrace diverse cultures. I believe the city should support the Multicultural Festival. I'm glad to hear from the city manager that we've foregone some fees. I'm not going to vote in favor of this motion because I would rather see the Multicultural Festival come and use this fund to get more monies, as the mayor has indicated. If this festival is going to be in our city council priorities along with other events, then we should do everything that we can to foster a successful festival. And we should be cognizant of the fact that people come from all around New Hampshire to attend this festival. So I would hope that the organizers would apply for more than the $22,005 or $2,000. I'm sorry, I took my glasses off, Counselor, so I can't see that. $2,500, and use that and leverage that additional money to create a bigger and better festival. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Sargent.
Thank you. Councilor Champlin took the first part of my statement, which is this is a crown jewel event in our city, and I think I've heard multiple councilors and the mayor note it in talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And as it turns out, we are taking credit for the work of others in presenting this really beautiful community building event in our community that brings in people from across the state, that increases activity for our local small businesses, and that is a wonderful display of all that Concord has to offer and all the people that we have here. So I will be supporting this earmark so that they can start off the Multicultural Festival, knowing that they have the support of the city of Concord to put together this event that we tout so often. And I think it's great that they can apply for additional funds through the grant opportunity that is now available.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councilor Brown?
I would just like to echo Councilor Chaplin and Councilor Rice Hawkins' statements. This is a really important event for our city and for the residents here to feel that sense of belonging. And I am excited that they have the opportunity to go for additional dollars, but I think it's important to show that we do support them with a line item, that it is dedicated towards multiculturalism in the city.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're ready for the vote. I vote no. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Councilor Champlin?
No.
Councilor Fennessy?
No.
Councilor Grady Sexton? Councilor Keach?
No.
Councilor Kretovic?
No.
Councilor Mattson?
No.
Council McLaughlin,
No.
Council McNamara,
No.
Council Nyan,
No.
Council Pierce,
No.
Council Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Council Todd.
No.
And Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
No.
All right, motion's defeated. Council Brown.
Well, I would like to ask that the council consider a motion for $4,500, dependent on the Concord School District also putting in $4,500 towards an all-kids bike program for a pilot program of 24 balance bikes, which can be converted to pedal bikes, an 8-week curriculum, 2 metal rolling racks, a helmet, 24 helmets, and an instructor bike also with conversion kit that can be and will be used immediately this fall and has the potential to be used across Concord elementary schools. I ask for your support.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a question. You just said that this would be used at Abbott Downing, and then I thought I heard you say it would be used across all schools. So I just want to make sure I understand what the vote's on. So this is for 24 of these bikes with all the accessories, with 1 adult bike, et cetera. But they're to be used by the Abbott Downing school children, or are these to be shared with other schools?
So when I spoke with the principal, Anthony Blinn, it would be a pilot program. They would start it, and kind of like what we're doing with the trash solid waste. You know, they would kind of work through any issues and then hopefully transfer those bikes also to another elementary school. But because they have already done the work, years worth of work with the biking community for support, you know, they would be a good judge of what works, what doesn't, and then they can share that information with other schools. I would like to see this, I mean, I would love to see every school have a fleet of bikes, but I think this is a great start.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments?
Could I ask?
Yes, please.
Merrimack Valley School District children also?
Yes.
When you talked to the superintendent, what did he say?
So I did not speak with the superintendent. I spoke with the principal, Jennifer Moore, and she's very interested. She wants to learn more. So that's why I think having a pilot program so that the principal.
What would be their contribution?
I
That when they
had not asked.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman McBurney.
I am all for supporting physical education in public schools, but I am concerned with public education and teachers who are already stretched to the max to get in the standards and benchmarks that the state expects of them. I would like to know more about standards and benchmarks. What curriculum is this in? And I really would encourage them, again, there's money out there that they can get for free that they don't even have to spend themselves. So I will not be supporting this.
Councilor Krenovic, Councilor Knight, sorry.
Thanks, Your Honor. I really strongly believe that this is another item that probably ought to go to a different committee for review first before we're looking at the cities all in on a project that none of us that are on the school district or joint city council committee has even reviewed. I would really prefer that this be reviewed by that committee where the superintendent of schools for Concord, as well as Merrimack Valley School District, their facilities person, members of their board of directors, and members of the school board for Concord are all participating in.
Councilor
Knight. Thank you. I'd try to make it a little bit more simple, which is the council of the city actually provides educational recreational activities through the Recreation and Parks Department. I see this as a school function that the school should be funding, and for that reason, I won't support it, but encourage the school district to do so.
Anyone else? Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. I think this is a great partnership for recreation in the city, and it's also a public safety issue to make sure that young kids riding bikes have some directed training on how to do that on our city streets. I think we've all had the experience of catching a young kid about to go across that crosswalk on their bike without looking. And also, while our City Recs and Parks and Rec Department does such a great job, partnering with the school gives us access to all students across the district, or districts, as I should say, which is a wonderful opportunity. I also am personally excited about a program like this, having participated in something like this as a young child, and also being out on the street with my daughter last night, who finally took off her training wheels after us begging for 18 months that she was ready. So this is a great opportunity for families in our community.
Thank you.
Sure, I just want to comment to Councilor McNamara's. I had spoken with Tim Blackton, and he said it satisfies the shape requirements. And they had worked closely with the PE teacher, so it did meet those requirements.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Okay, we will call for the vote. I vote no. Council Brown.
Yes.
Council Champlin.
No.
Council Fennessy.
No.
Council Grady Sexton.
No.
Council Keach.
No.
Council Kretovic.
Nope.
Council Mattson.
No.
Council McLaughlin.
No.
Council McNamara.
No.
Council Nyan.
Nope.
Council Pierce.
No.
Council Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Council Todd.
No.
And Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
No.
Motion fails. Council Brown.
Okay, so before I speak to letter C, 1,500 for Project Story, I was hoping that there would be space, multicultural space. The funding that you had stated in your recommendation, Your Honor, the 150, is that something that Project Story could apply to?
Sure.
Okay. Then I will not, then I'm simply, actually, then I will not speak to C. D, we already agreed. That was this, remove the 7,500 for arts. Number 2, golf course fund, reduce grounds and horticultural by 2,500, from 7,500 to 5,000. This is simply, hundreds of trees were removed. It cost the city $100,000. There is a tree donation program at the golf course. I would like to see some fundraising by the golf course for their grounds and horticultural.
So is that a motion?
So it is a motion to, yes, reduce that line item.
Council Rice Hawkins, you want a second?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We have a motion before us. The motion is made and seconded to reduce the grounds and horticultural at the golf course, in the golf course fund by $2,500 from $7,500 to $5,000. Is there any discussion? Okay, ready for the vote? I vote no. Council Brown.
Yes.
Council Champlin.
No.
Council Fennessy.
No.
Council Grady Sexton.
No.
Council Keach.
No.
Council Kretovic.
Nope.
Council Mattson.
No.
Council McLaughlin.
No.
Council McNamara.
No.
Council Nyan.
No.
Council Pierce.
No.
Council Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Council Todd.
No.
And Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
No.
Motion fails. Okay.
So I will move on to my recommendation, capital budget, the street tree planting. We have already passed 20,000, is that correct, Your Honor?
Additional 50.
Additional, okay, then that is, we don't need to, but
It's more than what you have here.
yes, exactly. So I'd like to move on to waiving to CIP 235, golf course grounds improvements. I would like to move that to fiscal year '25. We are taking a very close look at Keach Park and examining who uses it, how often, making sure it's equitable and fair, and we are not doing that at the golf course, and that is a significantly larger area. And I would like to take this time, as we pause, putting additional funds towards irrigation, to really look at this. This is 169 acres that are irrigated. We've spent taxpayer dollars to irrigate, taxpayer dollars to remove 400 trees, but not everyone is using it. Not everyone is accessing it. It is a lot of space, and at its busiest, only 200 people can use that, whereas Keach Park is 10 acres. 10 acres, and there are hundreds of people, 2 porta potties at Keach Park, and 2 trash cans and hundreds of kids using it all the time. I think we need to really look at our green space and how equitable it is. Other golf courses are looking at maximizing the use of their golf courses to expand it in creative ways, and I think we can be more creative with how we use the golf course.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council Keach.
Thank you. Council, I sort of take exception to your characterization that the golf course is some special place that is used by like privileged people or, you know, Councilor Bouchard can talk about Keach Park much better than I can, but it serves a community up there that is not just New Americans, but it's a community from East Concord to Manchester Street, and I would invite you to you know, talk more about that because you know more than I do, but it's, I'll leave it at that.
It's true that the Keach Park is a neighborhood park, and it and the New Americans and refugees and immigrants are a significant and important piece and users of the park. But the park is also more closely surrounded by neighborhoods and single-family homes. I think one of the things we should all be proud of on this council is the diversity that we have on the Heights, the diversity and integration. I think you can, and how well everyone gets along. You can walk along into the neighborhoods of single-family homes.
Point of order,
they're
excuse me.
owned by all cultures. So, and I agree, I think comparing the golf course to any park in this city, it's not apples to apples, and I won't be supporting your motion.
Thank you. Councilor Nine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Believe it or not, I've been pretty critical of the golf course since I joined the council. I appreciate exactly where you're going, and I do think that Keach Park and any other public park is more accessible than the hockey rink or the golf course. And over the years, I've kind of worked, and I've spoken to the manager, I've mentioned it here publicly, that wouldn't it be great if we did more things for the public at those 2 different venues. And what we've seen over that time period is the golf course has opened up to cross-country skiing, has opened it up to public skating. This past year, I heard some great testimony, I don't know if it was from the public or from someone here in the council, about the golf lesson program, which was implemented. It was a Thursday afternoon. It was double in size of what we had projected, which is exactly what I've advocated for over the years. So from that standpoint, I think the golf course is doing exactly what we've asked for over the years, which is to expand and become more accessible. I also recognize, and I made peace with investing capital dollars into the golf course on the basis that it is a city asset, and it's only an asset that's going to appreciate or maintain its value if we infuse cash into it and maintain it. That being said, it's exactly what we're doing here, no different than investing monies into Keach Park as an example, whether it be for lights or turf or anything else. So I support this project. It's been phased in. It's been done thoughtfully relative to a financial nature, and I think it is financially foolhardy to stop that process now, only to potentially pick it up next year or the year after. So, thank you.
Councilor Mattson.
Councilor Nyan said nearly everything I would have said, with the exception of I see Terrell Park is near and dear to my heart, and it's in next year, and I don't need any extra stress on the budget, and I agree with all of the comments relative to protecting and taking care of your assets before they become too depleted to cost so much money, so much more money to allow something if it's gone down too far in terms of deterioration. So, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Councilor Sargent?
Thank you. It's my belief that a community should decide what its priorities are, and I think if this community decides that a municipal golf course that can be used for different activities year-round as an investment we want to continue to invest in and maintain, then that's the choice of our community. My concern is that several times it's come up about looking at who are actually members or users of the golf course and whether or not they're Concord taxpayers or whether Concord taxpayers are subsidizing users. There also is no differential in the fees for people based on whether or not they're city residents or not, which is different than how we treat pretty much every other city asset, including our library and our pool. My other concern is that during the Beaver Meadow Golf Course Clubhouse listening session, there was a lot of conversation about including transportation. So the fact that the golf course is not accessible by public transit, and that if we're going to invest continue to invest resources out there, and I know that's about the clubhouse versus what we're talking about here, but my point is that we need to think about this holistically. And there was a lot of pushback. I was not pleased by how that conversation went, and where I heard a lot of community members voice those concerns, and I did not hear the responses from the committee be what I would hope for from the city. And in fact, one prominent member of the committee who also serves on Beaver Meadow Golf Course Committee overall, Advisory Committee overall, I spoke to him afterwards, where he told me that when he was younger and he wanted to go golf, his parents told him, good, go for it, and he had to walk 4 miles. And I said, so you don't care about transportation? And he said, no. And I said, so you had to walk uphill both ways? And he said, in the snow. And was, just not at all receptive to the idea that if we're going to have community resources, that we should have shared community priorities about how everyone can access those. I say all of this to say I cannot continue to support investment in the golf course if we're not going to take the very basic fiscal oversight to know who is using this, to make sure our fees are appropriate and the Concord taxpayers are not carrying the burden for a resource excuse me, that not everybody in our community is invited to participate in, and in fact that some of our advisory board members do not care whether or not other community members can participate.
Anyone else? Councilor Quigley.
Thanks, Your Honor. I'm glad you brought up the issue of transportation. Transportation goes 2 ways. Believe it or not, the people up in the north corner of the city cannot get transportation to the community-wide city center. Can't do it. So not only are we hearing from the community that that they can't get to the golf course, it does go the other way. We don't have a community center on our other side. And it has been spoken many times that the intent of the golf course and the redesign of the clubhouse would to create that community center on this side of the city. But oddly enough, the transportation piece, the buses, Monday through Friday, run up to Fisherville Road and up into Pennacook. It is 0.8 miles to walk from Cumberland Farms, which is the closest bus stop, over to Beaver Meadow Golf Course. And kids and other people can take their golf clubs on the bus, and they could also store them at the clubhouse in the cart barn. So while we want to have this conversation about the golf course, we always continue to have this juxtaposition between, oh, the golf course is so elite, it's so expensive. Well, but it's not expensive, because what Councilor Brown said the other day is that it's $600 or $700 less than other community golf courses around Concord. It's not even close to what the cost for Concord Country Club is. But we don't want to have that conversation, and we don't want to talk about the 124,000, I think it is, and I apologize if my number's wrong, that the golf course is giving back to the general fund to offset expenses in this year, because we're profitable. So you want us to be profitable, but you don't want us to spend money. You want us to continue working with an irrigation system that's over 58 years old now. We don't want to repair the broken irrigation system that is leaking water on the course, which is the next section here on the front 9 that would be taken care of this year. We want to just continue leaking that water because we somehow think that this is a great expense to taxpayers when it's going on the general obligations bond. We don't want to support the golf course. We do want to take their money. We want their money to go to other areas, but we forget all the conversations that have led to this point in time. Because when the golf course was losing money a decade ago, and we had all kinds of people leaving to go to Canterbury Woods and Pembroke and all the other golf courses around the area, we needed to make changes in order to fill our tee sheet, because that's what makes money. Fill the tee sheet with greens fees and season pass holders so that we are a revenue generating special fund for the city. We hear that it's not accessible to kids, but yet kids can golf for free. We hear that kids don't have equipment, but there is equipment for kids to use. The narrative that you continue to tell at this table is not one of truth. It is opening. It has always been opening. It's a course that has been around for over 125 years and is a city asset. Councillor Keach would be the first to tell you it is cheaper to recreate than it is to incarcerate. We are offering people on this northwest side of the city something to do, and that to do happens to be golf. We don't have a soccer field in Ward 3 or in portions of Ward 4 or in portions of Ward 5, but you know what? Kids can play soccer at Keach Park right now during daylight hours. So we keep wanting to have this conversation that just isn't a true conversation. You don't get it both ways. We're not elitist and free, and we're not contributing to the taxpayers and costing them money at the same time. We are trying to provide a special revenue fund that is contributing to the tax base. Thank you.
Well, it's Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Interestingly, some golf courses are allowing soccer on their golf courses. How great is that? Why don't we just clear the air, and I would like to have the Deputy City Manager for Finance answer the question: if the golf course was owned by a separate entity and everything else was the same, the irrigation and all the monies, the employment, the irrigation, the cost of running it, if someone else was running it and the city had no involvement and this organization was paying taxes, would it be profitable?
How would you know the answer?
Yeah, you don't.
I think this is a conversation that we've had over many years. It's not about the golf course. We've had the same conversation about the parking garages. Should we sell the parking garages? If somebody else operated them, what would they charge for rates? Would it be a lot more than we charge? Of course it would. Would it be good for downtown? No, probably wouldn't. We've talked about this for, remember years ago, water utilities were selling all their properties, and they were going private because, of course, the private sector can run it much better than the public sector. And what was happening was, where that was occurring across the country, the water rates were going up. So the public said, please reacquire those back and make sure that they're actually, the water's safe, and actually try to get the rates down. So we've looked at, should we actually, sell the water property? I'm sure you could do the same thing with sewer, you could do the same thing with the airport and everything else. But I think what it comes down to, and I think one of the councils said this earlier, it really depends on the values of what the community is. And not everybody's going to use the same thing. We've had the discussions where we've had a couple of recessions where some of the first things that come up are, why don't you really shut down recreation services and shut down the library? Because a lot of people don't use the library. A lot of people don't use recreation services. Most people probably in the community don't use the pools. But is that really the community we want to be? And the suggestions that some people have been making is, yeah, that's the kind of community that we want to be. I disagree. I think we have a different set of values. I think this community's better than that, and let's try to work on for the best of the community. Thank you, Brian.
I'm sorry. Thank you, City Manager, but that did not answer my question if it was profitable or not.
That was.
Can you answer if it's profitable?
I couldn't answer if it was a private organization, if it would be profitable. Right now, we have a fund balance of about $500,000. Based on the results of this coming year, it's going to increase by another $100,000 or so, depending on what happens, through the rest of this month. So, the profitability there, yes, that is profitable from operation point of view. If you had a private organization, I'm sure you would look at things a little bit differently. You'd have a board of directors, but this is the board of directors, and you go through the decision of the board, and you follow the policy that they want to do. So.
If the arena was run privately, could that be profitable?
I think I would have.
If the airport was run privately, could that be not profitable?
You would have the same answer.
There you go. Counselor Keach.
Thank you. You made this point several years ago, I think, Mr. Mayor, that one of the functions of city government is to do something important to the community that doesn't make money. So we're not in business to make money, but we are in business to create a community. And that means parks, golf courses, the rest of it. And they're not money makers, but we want to create a community that's important. And it's not a moneymaker. And that's what we have to do as a council, is to figure out what those priorities are. So it's not just about the bottom line.
Anyone else?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do think we need to look at priorities in parks. My concern is that the golf course is open 360 days. Our community center is not open on the weekends. It is open more hours than all 3 branches of our library. So I really think we need to examine our priorities and see who they are serving.
How many days a week is the arena open?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, ready for the question? All right. The motion is on pushing out CIP item number 235 from FY '24 to FY '25. Chair votes no. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
No.
Councilor Fennessy.
No.
Councilor Grady Sexton. Councilor Keach.
No.
Councilor Kretovic.
No.
Councilor Mattson.
No.
Councilor McLaughlin.
No.
Councilor McNamara.
No.
Councilor Nyan.
Nope.
Councilor Pierce.
No.
Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
No.
And Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
No.
Motion fails. Okay. I believe that takes us through your whole list.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I didn't forget about you, Councilor Bouchard. Mayor Pro Tem. Where are you at?
I was tying my amendment to the vehicle barriers.
So, no motion.
No motion, but I do want to, so everyone who's looking forward to the lights, I just, the timeline's going to be tight. I think everybody will do what they can, but the timeline's going to be tight, and what they're from the community and the community wants, and from the neighborhoods, and as we go forward, that things can change and
Okay.
do their
thank you.
best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other further potential changes they'd like to make to the proposed budget? Okay, with that, I will close our work session. We're going to take a 10-minute recess, which means it'll be 15. And I would like the finance director and the manager to get together to put together the sheet so that we know what the impact is to the tax rate and make sure we have all the changes that are clear. Thank you. We're in recess. Couple minutes. Welcome to our city council meeting for June 5th. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Could I interrupt?
Sure.
Could we just officially close the Finance Committee meeting with a motion?
Move to close the meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you.
They feel that?
I'm a lot better.
Okay.
Could sleep tonight.
We're now the city council. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Counselor Bouchard.
Oh, what, close the meeting, right?
Present.
Open the meeting.
You're here.
Yes.
You're present. Presente.
Sorry about that.
Mayor Boulay.
Here.
Counselor Brown.
Here.
Counselor Champlin.
Here.
Counselor Fennessy.
Present.
Counselor Grady Sexton. Here. Counselor Keach.
Present.
Counselor Credvick.
Here.
Counselor Mattson. Here. Counselor McLaughlin.
Here.
Counselor McNamara.
Yes, I'm here.
Counselor Nyan.
Present.
Counselor Pierce.
Present.
Counselor Rice Hawkins. Here. And and Counselor Todd.
Great, thank you. So I did pass around the one sheet here. This should reflect all the changes that we had made during our work session, so you should have that in front of you. Any objections to holding the public hearings on A, B, C, D all together so that anybody can testify on any piece they wish?
No problem.
Objection.
Okay, Madam Clerk, it's all yours.
Thank you. First item is a resolution fixing and determining the amount of money to be appropriated by the City of Concord for fiscal year 2024. Second is the resolution for the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital project funds. Third item is a resolution appropriating for fiscal year 2024 the sum of $20,133,326 for capital projects, authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the amount of $13,938,000, accepting $240,000 in state grant funds, and accepting $500,000 in land and water conservation funds for various capital projects. And last is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I General Code, Chapter 1 Government Organization for water use rates.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak on any one of those items? Capital budget, operating budget. Anyone? Okay, close the hearing or last chance?
I'm ready to go.
Oh, all right, you go.
Oh, no, wait, as soon as we get the motions done, we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
He's almost ready.
Does anybody want to testify? Hold on. Okay, we'll close the public hearing on the budget. And I'm going to can we just hold for a couple minutes on the action phase while we get the motions correct, if that's okay?
Johnson.
No, I'll just do it.
I don't think people realized that the public hearing portion is closed.
How many times did I ask? Do people want to testify on any one part of the budget? You do, okay. would it be okay to suspend the rules and allow for?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
All right. So with that, we'll reopen the public hearing. Is anyone wishing to speak on the public, on any portions, A, B, C, or D? Welcome.
Thank you. Apologies that I didn't, there's a lot of blank bureaucracy speak I don't quite process my neurodivergence when you say that, so I didn't realize this was the time. Anyway, my name is Jessica Livingston. I'm the director of the Concord Multicultural Festival and a Concord resident.
May I ask you just to pull your microphone a little closer?
Thank you. So I wanted to comment on the Special Projects Events Grant Fund. As most of you know, I'm a community event planner and have been for a long time, and I do very much appreciate that opportunity because I'm involved in several different community events. But I want to speak about the Multicultural Festival first. So I want to appreciate Councillor Brown for trying to add it to the budget. I understand why some of you voted no, because we can apply from the bigger fund, which is fine. But I just want to clarify a couple things because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about it. The Multicultural Festival is not a nonprofit. We're not an organization. We're just a volunteer committee that runs this event and then goes home and goes back to our regular jobs. I said earlier that we have had zero support from the city. I was corrected by David Gill that a tiny piece of our charges were waived, which I wasn't aware was even a charge and that it was waived. It's a very minor thing that I assumed was included in the $2,009 that we were already paying the city. So apologies for that, but I don't consider that small donation of a fee a partnership. Several of you have said things about like every other organization has to apply, that the city can't, it's a slippery slope when you have to pick and choose causes. There are several organizations that the city already supports, and that's fine. But for us, we are a community event. This event is a celebration for our community members. Yes, many other people from around the state and the region attend, which makes it an economic driver, but this event is mostly for the people in our community to feel welcomed, included, safe, and like they're valued. There are economic benefits to it, not only with bringing people from all over the state and region, but also, as we've seen with Batullo's Kitchen and several other up-and-coming ventures, it helps them to start businesses and provide more culture and diversity to our community as a whole, which makes us a wonderful place to live. I've heard from so many people so many young people that they don't want to live here because it's not diverse, it's not inclusive. The city doesn't support multicultural activities and initiatives. So I think that this event is more than just a community event like the Rockin' Race and in town or market days, and I've been on both of those committees. I've been on many planning committees. The Multicultural Festival is special, and as Councillor Champlin said, the city touts and brags about having the Multicultural Festival, which is fine, but we don't get the support from the city. And to me, support is more than just funding. We don't need the funding. We're not asking for funding. We're asking for your support and your buy-in, your dedication to the diversity and multicultural communities and the inclusion, and especially with your new DEIJB committee and initiatives. This seems to me like a no-brainer for the city to take on. It would speak volumes to our community that you really value them as a community. Right now, there's no real visual support from the community or from the city that the community sees. And again, it's not about the money. I don't feel that it's necessary to jump through hoops and apply for a grant from the city when we already have several businesses and organizations who sponsor us and support us because they truly see the value in what we bring to this community. So while I appreciate that events special grant for other events that I may be working on, I still feel like the Multicultural Festival is a different is a different thing. When we talk about equity, it's not the same as equality. There are people and groups and organizations who don't have the same access to things that other organizations do. And so those are the things that I encourage the city and everybody to look at, is like, it's not, organizations aren't apples to apples. There are organizations who do have the ability and the capacity to apply for funds and to pay for things, and they have much bigger operating budgets. But then there are just the grassroots individuals and volunteers who are just doing this work to help other people and to help the community be a better, safer, more welcoming place to be. And it's not the same. And when we're talking about equity, I want to segue into the discussion around Project Story and helping refugee kids and other marginalized kids. And it's not all about refugee kids, but any children who don't have access to sports and recreation and playing whatever in the leagues and everything. Somebody said, well, there's scholarships available. It's not that easy. You can't you tell a New American kid, like, well, have your parents apply for a scholarship. They don't know what that is. They don't speak the language. Reading the fine print is hard enough for some people like me, but also, like, if English isn't your first language, they're not going to know what to do or how to read that or how to fill out a scholarship or even what all of that entails. Additionally, we have many wonderful volunteers in this community who dedicate so much time to the New American kids, like Charm and several others in churches, and many community members who go way above and beyond to help the kids in this community. And they do things by, like, providing transportation, helping them apply for scholarships, helping them get to their games, buy all of their equipment. But again, it's not as simple as, oh, just apply for a scholarship. I have a colleague who was trying to sponsor a couple Afghan kids to play a sport through Concord Rec, and she filled out the applications, and it's only limited to 2 weeks, and it requires a $20 deposit. $20 is a lot for some families, especially those who are applying for scholarships. And because and this person is a former teacher, and she said that the fine print in there was not clear enough to say to explain these limitations, and she ended up owing the city $300 after applying for a scholarship for these kids. And of course, she wasn't going to tell them they can't go now. She had already told them they could go. So she ended up paying $300 out of her own pockets. So I want for the city to look at things more outside of your regular policies, processes, procedures, because that's not equity. Like, most of the people in this room are used to following policies and procedures, but the most vulnerable and marginalized around us can't do that. They don't even understand that. Like me, for example, I think I'm a pretty smart person, but I didn't understand what you were saying we were testifying on. That's why I was late coming up here. But there's a lot of things like policies and procedures that are rooted in white supremacy, and these are the things that we need to all look at as we're going on this DEI-JB journey, because you might have the best of intentions with all of this, but you have to listen to other perspectives. You have to look outside of the box of your regular rules and policies, and understand the nuances and the cultural differences and how you can reach those community members. You can't just say, oh, well, we have scholarships. They're not accessible to people, to everybody. So all of that is to say that I probably am not even, it's not even the fiscal financial piece of this that I want to testify on. I just really want the city to approach some of these budgetary things with more of an open mind and with more understanding of what equity and inclusion really means, and be open to listening to that, and trying to find ways that you can push against those societal norms and those policy procedural norms, because these policies and procedures were all created by a certain demographic of people, historically speaking, and it didn't include the vulnerable, marginalized Black and brown people, people with disabilities, LGBTQ people, even women in some cases. So I just really want the city to commit to the DEIJB initiatives and really truly do the work to do it as you're governing in this community.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? See none, appreciate it. Anyone else want to testify? Welcome.
Thank you. Your Honor and the City Council, I appreciate your time and for being here this time. It's too late for me. I got some projects I need to work on, so maybe you guys have more. Appreciate you. I have a few things that I want to talk about tonight, and I apologize. I might seem nervous. I'm having some personal issues. And I'm gonna go slow. Just please bear with me. First off, I wanna talk about community center. Like I said, I'm gonna go slow. I really wanna take time and think. I want to appreciate David Gill that he's approaching, some backpack leaders to connect and see how he can help in hiring some backpack members. It's very important, and I appreciate him. Maybe you've worked with the city councilors, so I appreciate you for that. But I want to see the city council recognizing some groups more like Project Story. I know Change for Concord has a space twice a month. We do appreciate that. A group like Project Story deserves that as soon as possible. And just to clarify, I'm not speaking on this idea. I'm not speaking on behalf of Change for Concord or American Friends Service Committee. I'm speaking as a community member. Transitions for the communication for community. We need our website to be accessible for everybody. It's to me. I want to take time and think because I don't feel safe in this room right now. Honestly, I just want to be honest. I don't feel safe anymore. Transition for the website. We want everybody to be able to learn about the community, learn about the system, but we can't do that if we have people who doesn't speak English, who doesn't understand English, to live in this community and expect them to thrive and get opportunities and feel like they're welcome. So we want to make sure our website is translated, has multiple languages, just like Chamber of Commerce did. They did such a wonderful job. I'm actually working with them. They already have few people attending Leadership Greater Concord next year. We did that together because some people were able to access the website. I actually use it in Swahili language, which is more fluent for me. I can read clearly and fast. So it's very important that we do that. I'm just asking friendly because I'm here to support. I'm not here to point fingers. And if I'm pointing fingers, I'm only pointing fingers on policies, not people. Okay, just so you understand. I'm not here to make anybody mad or upset. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Speaking on Project Story, to be honest, I want to give you a little bit of my story. how I started organizing and who I become today, I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for Project Story. I'm being honest, and I will tell you why. I used to work for this company. It's a factory, okay? When I came here, trying to catch up and be able to pay for my things. I started working for a factory. But my passion, my conviction couldn't allow me to stay in that factory. One day, my supervisor approached me because I used to speak a lot about helping people within the company. He said that, I don't see you here. You don't belong here. You belong somewhere else. I don't know why I don't know why he said that, but I realized that I need to do some work within a community. I started volunteering for Project Story, working with Jessica Livingston and some few people. And Project Story gave me that access. I did volunteer through the summer, okay? I know how Parks and Recreations programs around Kitch Park works because I spent my time throughout the summer, all the summer, morning to afternoon before I go to work. I spent 7 hours every day of my time working for Project Story, volunteering, and actually seeing how Kitch Park is managed, how Kitch Park functions, how the programs around Kitch Park works. I understand how it is. So I suggest that before we even speak about groups that we don't even know about and make assumptions in making starting talking about how you feel about the organization, I suggest that you learn about the organization, talk to people within the organization. If it is that it's not worth becoming part of the community, so let's talk about that. Because I think Project Story gave me an opportunity to work with my community, to work with you guys. And I'm thinking, as a city councilors, you should be proud of people like Charm. You actually should be proud of me staying in this community. I do have families outside this state that are suggesting that I move, but I don't want to do that because I see my purpose. I see my purpose in this community. So I suggest that you actually work with people who want to make this community more accessible, and Charm is part of it. Charm is recognizing those young people that she thinks that they can become our next leaders. And that's part of the project, the website. That's part of her programs. She thinks that those young people can become part of our community, where they feel discriminated in education, in schools, where they feel discriminated within our communities, around the parks. She thinks that she has a responsibility to make that right and give them opportunities to become who they want to become. And now we're saying that we want to exclude them. Like I'm saying, I'm not pointing on people. Like I'm not saying anybody here, okay? I don't wanna make anybody upset, but I said, I don't feel safe. That's honest. I'm being honest. Because sometimes we talk about things as if we don't know that we're actually attacking other people. We actually do attack people, and we know that's true. There's some things we can talk about, and there's some things we can't talk about. I think Project Story is so important in this community, and it's one of the most important groups in this community that we should take care of to make sure it's successful, because it's supporting marginalized groups within our community. Concord, as a city, capital city of New Hampshire, it's the most. It's behind any other cities or any other states when it comes to DEIJ. And someone like Charm, Project Story, recognizes that's a big issue we have in our community, and she's willing to work with the city council. And I'm so happy that some of the city councilors see that as a positive thing. They've been trying to help. So let's be honest. Let's start making big changes, and actually they talk about things. I hate the fact that there's issues, but we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to have a conversation about those issues. And that's something we're going to have to hold accountable to ourselves, to our leaders in the community. There's issues, we have to talk about it. We don't talk about it, that's a no-no. I think we have to step up. Let me just, like I said, I'm trying to act, but like I apologize for my that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And my conviction is that my conviction doesn't allow me to stop, but I have power to figure it out. But please don't get mad at me. I want to have a conversation with you, and we're gonna keep having conversations. I want to talk about police social worker. I only supported this idea. Again, just to clarify, for clarification, I'm not talking these ideas. I'm not talking on behalf of Change for Concord or American Friends Service Committee. This is a community member. I'm just a community member talking about the issues we have in our community. Okay, police social worker. I only supported this idea as a community member because I'm expecting our police to act and have conversations with community members and figure out if this is a step they have to take. I've had meetings with them. I've had previously we had a meeting, and I gave them homework. I gave them homework as a community member to go and figure it out. I want to see their proposal about how they're going to work with the community, about how they're going to make sure they're doing what the community needs, or about what the community needs. I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about everybody, okay? So I'm not stepping down to this idea. I still support the idea, but I want to see their proposal about this, how it's going to help the community. And I'm talking about the whole community, not just one group of people, BIPOC community or whatever, like everybody. I want to see their proposal about this. Otherwise, I don't think we're moving on. Okay. I heard there's 330,000 for DEIJ. And I'm aware that we're hiring a DEIJ coordinator for the city. I think that's a positive thing. But during our the community listening sessions, we didn't get to talk about this. This wasn't part of the agenda. I think the fact that we want to hire someone as a BIPOC member, as a Black person who understands how discrimination feels like, how being excluded in this community feels like, how living in this community the most, I don't want to say the word, I think there has to be a conversation, and I'm positive, and I stand on that as a community member. There has to be a conversation whether we hire someone or not, and this is why. First, before we even hire someone, we should focus on the most important things we never even talked about before, we never even supported. The Multicultural Festival. We want to see those kind of small, it's not small, we want to see Multicultural Festival succeed in Concord. We want to be the first city. We wanna be a great example to other cities in New Hampshire. If we can't succeed on this, just one idea, if we can't succeed on this, then what is it that, so, yeah, I want to see a support from the city council, supporting Jessica to make sure Multicultural Festival is very successful this year. I want to see that support. I also think that we need more, maybe 1 or 2 community listening sessions. And I'm thinking that we do that as soon as possible, because that's one of my plans. If in 1 or 2 months the city doesn't take actions or doesn't have a community listening session, I'm gonna have to make one, and I think I'm gonna have to work with you guys, yes or not. But why I'm saying that is because the way we communicate with the community is still an issue, and I think we need to have one more so I can help to communicate with the community and to bring more people to the community listening session to have a conversation about what we need. I think that's a positive thing, and I think we should take action on that. This might be out of this, but recently the city had Know Your Rights training. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's one of the city's priority, but it's just in English. This tells me that only a few people knows the rights of the city, the rights of, of the state or whatever. And we need to translate this. We need to have more Know Your Rights training in different languages. Otherwise, I think this is more like a discrimination. I think. I also want to know what the city is planning for this idea of Juneteenth. I don't know if I'm saying that right, because this is one of the biggest event that we're supposed to take actions on. We don't have to have an event, but I want to see something on the city website supporting this idea, or hosting something for the city. I heard someone say that we have a lot of groups in our community, but I want to ask a question. How about Project Story? Is it Project Story one of the great groups, or is Multicultural Festival one of the greatest groups? Anyway, so now on behalf of Change for Concord, I want to take any questions that you guys have for lights. But one thing I want to see in your proposal, if you're going to write a proposal about lights, I want to see, I want to see that you recognize that the community, the neighborhood is a priority. And yeah, that is a priority for use of Kitch Park. With that being said, I would like to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Fisto. I think Project Story does a great job. I'm very grateful for all they do. But I also believe in open and transparency. And I think we all, no matter what group, should go by the same rules and the same laws. And that's what I was only trying to say. I think they do great things, but I think maybe a little bit more transparency on whether there's a soccer club happening, and do the same thing. Because I'm also worried that without the city knowing and having certain liabilities, that Project Story could actually end up in some legal issues on their own. So it's just, I'm just trying to highlight that we all have some same rules that happen for organizations in the park and just to follow them. And I don't know if they are or not, but if they're not, I think it's a conversation to have now. And I also want to thank you for all you do. You speak up very eloquently. In fact, I just, some of your writings that I've seen on Project Story, I have one I've highlighted here because I thought this was very well said. And you wrote, if you are in a position of leadership, you should never focus on popularity or media attention. Your focus should be about purpose, passion, vision, character, and principle. I think that's very well said, and I have it highlighted, so remember it. So, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Thank you for coming out. Anyone else want to testify? Trying to be extra careful, sorry. Okay, seeing now, we'll close the public hearing. Okay. Takes us to our action items, and we'll take up these one at a time. So item 5, please.
It's a resolution fixing and determining the amount of money to be appropriated by the City of Concord for fiscal year 2024.
Okay, so if you get a motion with the following amendment, and this is the, number 5 is the operating budget. This is the general fund, to amend the general fund operating budget to increase 495,150 to 783,89753, using 150,000 from the Economic Development Reserve, 50,000 increase in motor vehicle registrations, $295,150 from the unassigned fund balance.
So moved.
Second is just a little close.
Sorry.
Hold on. And increasing the golf fund by $50,696 to $1,634,176. Also increasing daily fees by $35,426 for a total operating budget for all funds of $110,666,987. Now is there a motion?
Second. Moved.
All right, it's moved and seconded for item 5, which is the operating budget, with the amendment, and that amendment reflects, Ms. LeBron, that amendment reflects the activities that we took place during the work session, correct? Yes, thank you very much. Is there any discussion on that? You want operating or capital?
Capital, but do I need to wait?
If you want to talk about the operating budget, talk about the operating budget, but if you're going to talk about what I think you're going to talk about, you want to talk about capital.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Okay.
we don't move fast.
No, it wasn't,
Thank you.
gotcha, okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, can call roll, please.
Counselor Bouchard?
Yes.
Mayor Boulay?
Yes.
Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Counselor Champlin?
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy?
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton?
Yes.
Counselor Keach?
Yes.
Counselor Kretovic?
Yes.
Counselor Mattson?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor McNamara?
Yes.
Counselor Nyan?
Yes.
Counselor Pierce?
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins?
Yes.
And Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Thank you, beginning, Councilor. Motion is adopted. Okay, item 6, please.
It is a resolution for the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital project funds.
Okay, so first can I get a motion which would include amending capital by decreasing the total capital budget by $30,000 to $20,103,326 and reducing the total bond authorization to $13893,000 and increasing the total capital transfer to $968,000, which is by $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, motion, and seconded. Councilor Rice Hawkins. Wait, hold, actually, I apologize.
This actually vote you're taking on now is the closeouts of the existing.
My fault.
The next one, right?
I was a little premature.
Move approval.
Motion made second to approve item 6, which is resolution annual capital closeout repurposing of funds. My fault, my apologies.
Counselor Bouchard?
Yes.
Mayor Bulish?
Yes.
Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Counselor Champlin?
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy?
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton?
Yes.
Counselor Keach?
Yes.
Counselor Kretovic?
Yes.
Counselor Matson?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor McNamara?
Yes.
Counselor Nyan?
Yes.
Counselor Pierce?
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins?
Yes.
And Counselor Todd?
Item
Uh,
7, please.
Next item is a resolution appropriating funds for fiscal year 2024 as amended.
Move approval.
I tell you what, can we move approval with the amendment? And do you want me to read?
Absolutely, Bill.
Should I'll read it again, one more time. Decreasing the total capital budget by $30,000 to $20,103,326, reducing the total bond authorization to $13,893,000, and decreasing the total capital transfer by $968,000, which is by $15,000. Motion's
So moved.
made, seconded?
Seconded.
Seconded. Counselor Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. Forgive me for not being able to get my notes quick enough for this earlier. I am fine with this with the exception of CIP number 4, removing the fire vehicles. There are several vehicles that would be removed and put off for a year, which is fine, with the exception of, I would like the council to consider adding $60,000 back for one particular vehicle, SUV cab style that is used by the fire marshal, and currently the equipment that is used in fire investigations and which has smoke and other debris on it is kept in the bed, in the cab of that vehicle. And we all know the public health risks, and we have done a lot as a city to try to mitigate that in several other ways. The proposal here was to add a truck instead, so that equipment would actually be stored in the bed of a truck. And rather than wait another year on that one particular vehicle, I would suggest that we actually retain that one while accepting the rest of the removal and pushing off the rest for a year. So that would add an estimated $60,000 back into the budget for that purpose.
Is that your motion?
Thank you.
I'll second.
So a motion made, seconded to replace the fire marshal's vehicle number 522, which currently has 41,690 miles. It is a 2017 vehicle, and as you said, we're hoping to replace the vehicle with a F-150 pickup, as it's better suited to carry tools and other equipment needed for fire investigations. So, if you don't mind, I'm not going to direct a question to you, because I don't think you probably have the answer. So, Mr. Manager, you know, 4 vehicles, 240, that's $60,000 per vehicle. So what are you gonna do with this other vehicle? 'Cause, I mean, this is still a good vehicle.
Right, so we'd look at, would have, may I? Would have Fleet take a look at it, make sure it's still in good working condition, and then if it can be handed out to somebody else within the organization, not within fire, within some other department, we would do that, or it would go to auction. And then Tina would take care, I think Tina's already left, but Tina would take care of it from there.
May I ask a question?
Please.
It's my understanding, these vehicles typically might go to the police department to live out the rest of their life, is that?
Yeah, that's why we take a look at it and see if it can get handed out, but not all the time. Depends on what their needs are also, and, you know, they're choosy. They're
Follow up.
so.
So if it had wear and tear, then it probably wouldn't be a good candidate for the police department. But if it was still in pretty prime condition, then it most likely would be.
Could possibly, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know enough about that individual vehicle myself.
Thank you.
So my question is, do you have an offsetting number to offset the expense?
Thank you for the question. I do not at this time. I would look to the mayor's guidance there, because you were so wonderful at it.
Just
Great answer.
I got
I've
bruises
been
all over me
watching
from
Counselor
tonight.
Keach tonight.
Any further discussion?
That's fascinating.
Thank you. I think this might be more of a question, but I believe Councilor Rice Hawkins was suggesting that we need to replace this because of concerns about hazardous materials that were going to be within the vehicle itself. Do we have concerns about reusing the vehicle with other city departments?
I'd ask the chief to come forward and answer those questions.
Yeah, the information I have was not about any hazardous materials. The information I have is it better suited to carry tools and other equipment needed for fire investigations.
Okay, maybe I misheard, but I thought I heard that stuff is being carried.
So what tools can you not carry in your existing vehicle?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So what tools, you're saying that you need a new fire marshal vehicle that's got 41,000 miles on it, and you're saying you need this because you can't carry tools in it now that you need to do fire investigations?
Yeah, the problem or the issue was that we were looking to replace this particular vehicle with a pickup is so we can take the fire marshal's investigation tools, shovels, other specialized equipment. He has certain boots he wears during the investigations when he's digging out scenes that become extremely contaminated, and despite washing them as much as we can, if that cab gets any temperature at all, it smells like smoke. For weeks at a time, it's off-gassing materials that have been shown, through the industry, and we're paying more attention that can cause cancer. So the idea is not necessarily that they can't carry the tools. We're looking to separate where those tools in his gear is stored into the back where it's no longer in the vehicle that he's driving around every day. Excuse me. When he's not doing investigations, he's still using that same vehicle to do all of the fire inspections, the educational activities that he's doing. So that was our hope when we were replacing that vehicle, was to replace it with a pickup truck to separate that space.
Chief, do you have any pickup trucks now within the department?
We do. We do have one. We do have other pickup trucks. We have utility vehicles for the stations that act as plow vehicles that sometimes go during snowstorms in front, and they also plow the stations. The training officer has a pickup truck for the same reason, was to separate the gear when he's toting equipment between the stations that have similar smoke conditions, to separate him from those.
Thank you, Chief. Would you be requesting replacement for this particular vehicle if it were not for the public health concern for the staff member?
Right now, we would not be requesting special consideration. We do have a vehicle within our fleet right now that I believe it was circa 2018 when it was about 2018. We added a paramedic lieutenant position to our force, and that position is using a vehicle that we were allowed to maintain that is not currently on the replacement schedule, that is much older than the vehicle that we're talking about. So if there were no other home within the city, we certainly could replace that vehicle with the vehicle that was 30-something thousand miles, I forget the exact number, with a vehicle that is much older, that used to be the battalion chief car 3 generations ago. So this is a vehicle that's on its last legs.
Councilor Keach?
Thank you. Chief, does each station have its own plow truck for winter plowing and so forth?
So the plow trucks often are the forestry trucks. They do dual duty. So Station 4, yes.
Could those vehicles be used in this capacity you're describing?
The fire marshal's vehicle has particular.
It just occurs to me that it snows 6 months a year, not 12 months a year.
The other portion of the year, they're forestry vehicles, so they have specialized forestry hose, forestry pumps that are equipped to respond out into the woods. So they do have round-the-year dual capacity usages.
Thank you.
Todd?
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief, for those materials that are used that become contaminated, is there any possibility of having some kind of a container in the back of the vehicle that those materials could be placed into, that could be sealed down and shut, so that you wouldn't have any off-gassing while a person was in the vehicle?
We do have similar containers that are used to transport firefighters' gear between stations when they have to serve at different stations. They're totes. We haven't found ones that are airtight enough where you still don't smell the off-gassing, for lack of a better term, and that's for temporary use. This would be something that would stay in that vehicle. So not something that we have found that would be good enough that I can say right now where you wouldn't get this potential off-gassing.
So Chief, so in the fire department vehicle CIP budget, you're asking the taxpayers to fund, which I don't doubt any of them are important, $1,537,181. So $1.5 million we're gonna spend on vehicles. So of these, we have replace a tanker truck, which 25 years old, we probably need to do, right?
Yep.
The number you got was 895,000. That's a pretty solid number, right?
That's a solid number, yep.
Then you're looking to place ambulance 7, who's been in service since 2019, right? And you have a number of $400,000 in there. The last ambulance we bought, which was last year, last budget, right?
Correct.
Was $350,000.
Yes.
Do you think you could find $60,000 in a $1.5 million budget to buy yourself a new fire marshal vehicle truck?
I don't think I could find 60,000. I do not. There are some additional.
30, how about 30, 20, whatever.
There are some additional expenses with the ambulance because of the addition of the 4th ambulance. We had decided to not purchase new stretcher and stair chair and a couple other pieces of capital equipment with the previous ambulance, and we found that we do need to replace some of those. That's why this ambulance has come in a little bit higher than, I believe it was about 50,000 from what you had just said. So there are a couple of additional purchases that we needed to fund to get that 4th ambulance up and running.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions? Appreciate
Thank you, I
it.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Okay, so we have a motion to add $60,000 to the CIP for the purposes of replacing a fire marshal vehicle, for a truck. Was there a second? I apologize. I'm sure you were.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Whew. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna.
Yep, Council Matson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just want to ask the impact of that if we take it on with no other offsets.
So what I'm doing is we have we reduced the CIP from what the manager did by $30,000.
Okay.
Correct? Correct. So there's 30,000 there, if you bring it back to what the manager had. So now I'm looking for 30,000 more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was asking at a 1.5, you could find some. If you have something to add, please feel free.
No, I can just give you updated numbers when you're ready.
Sure. On the capital budget?
So if this motion passes, then the revised capital budget would now be $20,163,326, and the revised bonding number would be $13,953,000.
Okay.
And you need a 2/3 vote on the bonding.
Yep. Okay. Everybody clear on the motion? Everybody clear on the impact? Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, you can call the roll.
Counselor Bouchard?
Yes.
Mayor Bullock?
Yes.
Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Counselor Champlin?
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy?
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton?
Yes.
Counselor Keach?
Yes.
Counselor Kretovic?
Yes.
Counselor Mattson?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor McNamara?
Yes.
Counselor Nyan?
Yes.
Counselor Pierce?
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins? And Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Motion approved. So we have before us the revised, and the finance director has given us the new numbers. Is everybody clear on that, or do we need to repeat them? All set? Okay. So with that, are we ready for the question? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Counselor Bouchard?
Yes.
Mayor Bullock?
Yes.
Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Counselor Champlin?
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy?
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton? Counselor Keach?
Affirmative.
Counselor Kretovic?
Yes.
Counselor Mattson?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor McNamara?
Yes.
Counselor Nyan?
Yes.
Counselor Pierce?
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins?
Yes.
And Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Motion adopted. Madam Clerk, item 8, please.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I General Code, Chapter 1 Government Organization, Water Use Rates.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is this one? Any comments, questions? Seeing none? Madam Clerk?
Counselor Bouchard?
Yes.
Mayor Bullock?
Yep.
Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Counselor Champlin?
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy?
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton?
Yes.
Counselor Keach? Counselor Karlovic?
Yes.
Counselor Mattson?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor McNamara?
Yes.
Counselor Nyan?
Yes.
Counselor Pierce?
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins?
Yes.
And Counselor Todd?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I do have one other that I want to bring up, is a question of the council. If you don't want to entertain it, don't entertain it, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear. So in the manager's proposed budget, one of the things that he had proposed was increase in the purple bag rates for the city. Can you remind us what they were?
It would go to a 28% increase. It was $1.60 for the small bags and $3.20 for the larger bag.
Got it.
So,
I listened to the comments that were made, went through the performance. It doesn't seem like we actually need to raise the rates of the bags this year, and I wanted to put it before you to, for your consideration, not to raise the rates.
Second.
Somebody
Move.
somebody have to make a motion.
I'll make a
Move
motion
approval.
to not increase the rates of the bags.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, not increase rates. Is there any discussion? Council Pierce.
Effect on revenue?
483,000?
I mean,
400, sorry, thank you, $438,000.
Not to raise them.
If
If we were to, if I may, if we were to raise the rates, it was
$38,000 additional revenue you would
So
bring in.
now keeping them the same, that changes that revenue number, correct?
Correct.
To what?
438,000.
Oh, that's the-
less,
okay.
less than the number that's in.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Council Fennessy.
Thank you. So the 438,000, that would be with respect to the solid waste fund?
That's correct.
Okay, so it wouldn't impact the general fund or the tax rate that we're setting?
Correct. The idea, the concept, Mayor? Please. The concept behind it is you're going to have to, in fiscal year '25, you're going to have to increase the general fund. And again, this is all up to you, by about 600. If you do this, if you do the 438,000, you're going to have to increase the general fund contribution by about 600 plus thousand to get to about $1.1 million in additional costs for what the new solid waste contract going to cost. So the recommendation essentially split that a little bit, and that way the general fund picks up some, and the solid waste users pick up some. So by moving that, by not doing it this year, then of course you'll have the same question next year about whether you want to do it next year or not. But it's just, so if you want a simple way to look at it, you'll have $438,000, give or take, less in the pro forma going forward. So when it comes time to decide how much comes from the general fund, you'll have that much less room to deal with. It'll be that, the number will be that much closer, and the general fund impact could be that much higher. Is that roughly?
Yeah, it's exactly, I just want to clarify, the number's 483, not 430.
I was right. Okay, 483.
Argue with the city.
Thank you. Yeah, I got lucky on that.
Stein.
Thanks. So in response, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee made the recommendation to increase the bag prices because of the balancing act that the manager and the mayor kind of referring to. You don't have to do it, just affects the pro forma. It's just going to mean the transfer is going to be that much bigger next year, and it's just going to be a bigger nut next year. It's a balancing act.
Councilor Keach.
It's a little off topic, but I would suggest and encourage that Councilor Nyland, you keep the solid waste district question on your plate and
Deliberate.
No, deliver some equity. Because as more folks move downtown, that's going to be an issue. And, it's like a personal thing of mine, but it's going to be a bigger issue as it goes forward. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to share something that we talked about is either way, I think the taxpayer is going to have to spend more money, either way.
Yeah.
And one thing about the purple bags is what we found in the past, when we implemented purple bags, people were more cognizant of what they put in the trash and what they recycle. And I know we're going to do a lot more education, But I think that's something that we are working on, and we need to all be cognizant of that piece, recycling and education. Yeah, nothing's gonna be free.
I think that's a good summary. Nothing's gonna be free, but the question is, do you want prices to be 1, or do you want prices to be 2?
Please for it.
1?
I know.
So would that, you have motion's been seconded to keep the rates as they are this year and not increase the bag fee. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Please take a roll call. Counselor Bouchard.
Support the motion, yes.
Mayor Buller.
Yes.
Counselor Brown.
The motion is to
Keep the bags where they are.
Leave the rates the
not
same.
increase the rates.
Councilor Brown?
I vote to increase.
So, no,
no.
okay.
No.
Counselor Champlin.
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy.
No.
Counselor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Counselor Keach.
Yes.
Counselor Credit.
Yes.
Counselor Mattson.
No.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor McNamara.
No.
Counselor Nine.
No.
Counselor Pierce.
No.
Counselor Rice Hawkins.
No.
And Counselor Todd.
No.
So the motion fails. Eight.
7.
Yep, 7 to 8.
Motion fails. Okay. Councilor Rice Hawkins?
Thank you. Might I suggest that we potentially put this on the calendar for next week or a following meeting, just to go through the presentation again and the numbers for how the committee has come up with the recommendation? I think it would be a good review for everyone.
Okay, probably not next week, but we can happily do that at some point.
Thank you.
Next week's we got a pretty good agenda. So it is time for comments. Anybody like to share anything?
Sure. Thank you. I would just like to encourage everyone to go check out the fabulous display at the library. I forwarded everyone the documentation from the city website about our history, and you can actually see the tools that were uncovered during the Northern Pass excavation. It's fascinating.
Anyone else? Councilman?
Thank you, Aaron. I just want to take a moment to recognize staff and the entire management team for all the work that went into the budget process. The fact that we are coming out of this particular budget cycle and the economic climate that we find ourselves with a 3.96% tax increase is absolutely amazing, especially when you look at the cost of contracts going up, the cost of electricity, fuel. So certainly credit goes to the council for voting and its oversight, but I just wanted to recognize staff for all of their hard work, in particular the manager and the finance, deputy city manager of finance. So thank you.
I just want to quickly say thank you for all the late nights you spent with us as well over the last 2.5 weeks.
I guess I've just, not to be redundant, but I want to reiterate, this document that you put together and your team puts together, Mr. Manager, it's always, in my opinion, the most important document that we've worked with all year. And the fact that we make so few changes to the document each year is really a testament to how well you and all of the city team, they do, and how seriously you take budgeting and the priorities that we set as a council on implementation of those priorities. So to you, to your team, every one of the department heads, every employee who carries out all the things that we authorize within this budget, we obviously can't do without you, and it's truly a heartfelt thank you for everything you do. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Manager, you have anything?
You're making Brian cry.
I had him crying earlier.
Yeah, exactly. He does that a lot during budget.
Crying all night.
But really, the hard work is really all done by Deputy Manager for Finance, Brian LeBron, and Matt Walsh, as you know, puts together the capital budget, has for a number of years, and keeps all those numbers in his head and making them work. But the Office of Management budget, which is Rebecca Doherty, which is right behind Matthew, and then Bob McManus, who's been with me now for 20-something years. Seems longer, doesn't it? It is longer.
We started
Seems
together.
longer than him.
26 years
It is
ago.
to him, for sure. He's been longer than me. And then you can see all the department heads here, and I think you can see by the public turnout, the community is in touch with what you want to do. And what we try to do, all the departments, when they give me the input from Karen over in Human Services and Chip and Brad, and they all try to take what they hear and they learn from you over the year and incorporate it in their requests. That's why you see the program change requests. I wish I could have funded a whole lot more of those, because they do have a lot of great ideas. Just somewhere along the line, there's a number, and I try to come as close to making that number match what your expectations are, but it's always a little bit off, which is good, because of that's where the discussion comes from. So thank you for all your support over the last year and all the many years, and I think we have a really good document to work with going forward, and I do think that while I always do want to come in with a budget that is as low as possible, it is a balanced budget, as Keith Nyan always reminds me that I need to be working on it. So, we're back to that. So we're back to that in a year and a half when it should have taken about 4 years to do. So amazing work on your part. So thank you for all your hard work on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. So with that brings us to the end. We do have one item in non-public, so I would ask that we have a motion to go to non-public accordance with RSA 91A,
So
3, 2A through C, to discuss the city manager's evaluation and compensation held. Motion made, seconded?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.